Okay, good evening. We will now reconvene to open session. Nathan, would you please join us for the Pledge of Allegiance, sir? You're going to lead us tonight. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Excellent job. Thank you, Nathan. Okay. Report of board action taken in closed session. Oh my goodness. Okay, during closed session, the board denied claim number 2107987. The board approved and that claim was denied 5-0. The board approved 5-0. OAH case number 202-101-0749. Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Public communications. Public comment on non-agenda items. The public will be given the opportunity to address the board at this time on topics not listed on the agenda. Remarks shall be limited to 3 minutes per person. The board reserves the right to limit public comment beyond a total of 15 minutes per agenda item. The board cannot engage in public discussion during this portion of the agenda due to the Ralph M. Brown Act, Government Code Section 54950 through 54963. Directions on how to submit a comment are available at www.pvpusd.net/feedback, or you can fill out a yellow card in the back. Ms. Westcott, do we have anybody speaking to non-agenda items?
We have no speakers on non-agenda.
Thank you. Public comment on open session agenda items. The public will be given the opportunity to address the board during each agenda item. Remarks shall be limited to 3 minutes per person. The board reserves the right to limit public comment beyond a total of 15 minutes per agenda item. Directions on how to submit a comment are available at www.pvpusd.net/feedback. And in addition, we have yellow cards in the back, which I see quite a few people have already filled out. All right. Board President announcements. Tonight's Board of Education meeting is being recorded and live streamed via a link on the district website. Enrollment for our 21-22 school year is now open. Please. Did I skip the minutes? Yes, I did. I always skip the minutes. How do I do that? Megan, can we put that like big bold? All right. Thank you, Megan. Is there a motion to approve the minutes of the regular meeting of June 8th, 2021 as presented?
So moved.
Is there any discussion? Okay, roll
Second.
call.
Second.
Okay.
Second.
Yeah, I heard a second over here.
Oh, sorry.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, now we get to board president announcements. All right, enrollment for our 2021-22 school year is now open. Please go to our website for more information. PV Kids Corner is offering the summer 2021 program, PV Kids Corner Summer Program. Information is on our website at www.pvpusd.net/pvkids. Households with a child who is approved to receive free or reduced price school meals are eligible for the Emergency Broadband Benefit Program. Households can receive a monthly discount of $50 per month on internet service and associated equipment, as well as a one-time discount of $100 for a connected device, such as a laptop or desktop computer. For more information and to apply for the free and reduced price meal program, visit the Food Services website, which is accessible under the Parents and Students section of the district website. To help support your student this summer with active learning opportunities, students will continue to have access to the software applications, the apps, within the PVPUSD student portal, https://portal.pvpusd.net. New this summer, there is a student playlist of lessons in iReady for all kindergarten through 8th grade students. Students will also have access to learning games and math meant to reinforce the skills they are working on. Please see the detailed email from your principal for more information. If your child was performing below grade level, she should have already been invited to participate in Jumpstart, our 2-week summer academy taking place August 2nd through the 13th. If you have not been contacted and your child was performing below grade level, please fill out form on our district website. PVPUSD is excited to reopen all of our schools in person 5 days a week, full day. This will be the default education program for all students. No action is required if you plan to return to on-campus instruction in the fall. For those seeking an alternative option, the district will only be offering independent study, no live instruction, at elementary, intermediate, and high school. If you are seeking an option until your child can be vaccinated, independent study for semester or trimester is available to you. There will be no daily instruction. Parents interested in this option should have made this selection via the Aries portal as a window closed on Sunday, June 20th. If you have questions, contact Suzanne Wildey at Wildey, WILDEYS, at pvpusd.net. And finally, the school calendar for 21-22 is available on our district website. We look forward to welcoming all of our staff and students back on August 25th. Until then, we wish you a safe and restful summer full of fun. Okay. We're going to let, is Mr. Coleman here in person or is he online? Okay, Mr. Coleman, report of the Palos Verdes Faculty Association leadership. Welcome, sir. Yes, please.
There we go. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen of the board, district staff, members of the public. Tonight, I come to you to give the Palos Verdes Faculty Association update. The update is we're off. It's summer. And so I don't know of anyone who was really more ready for summer than the teachers in Palos Verdes, although I'm sure you are too. So I think we're resting, recuperating, and planning, which is kind of what we do. In the summer, I always try to get my next year done before July 1st begins. So I know you're going to hear later about our music program in elementary schools. I did want to let you know that I've heard a lot from teachers, elementary school teachers who are concerned about a district thinking about moving it to either before or after school and maybe making it an enrichment class. Our association's position is that music isn't enrichment, the arts aren't enrichment, they're critical core pieces of our education, and it belongs in the school day, and every child should go. And I know I've spoken to folks who said, well, you know, not every kid likes music, and I get that. I'm an English teacher. They don't all love writing essays either, and nevertheless, we persist. And so our strong recommendation is to keep music during the day where it provides students an opportunity to do something other than math or a core subject. Right? So we feel that music provides an outlet for students. It's good for their mental health, and it's good for the mental health of the entire student body if it comes during the day. Our fear is after the day won't provide the kind of relief that they really need. Apart from that, we are ongoing in negotiations with the district. We met twice this week. And I think we have another date scheduled for August. It's our hope that we can resolve things pretty quickly before the beginning of next year would be great. So thank you for your time.
Thank you, Dr. Coleman. We will not have a report of the California School Employees Association leadership. Next will be the report of the superintendent, Dr. Chernas.
Thank you, President Brock, members of the school board. We are now, for many of us, this is the busiest time of year as we start planning for next year. And so for our maintenance and operations departments, we're busy doing summer work now. And our Ed Services is preparing for next year. And with that, we have the Jumpstart program, which we will be talking about a little bit about later on. But we're also planning, as President Brock mentioned in his report, the independent study program. And so our plan is to move to have all independent study and Rancho Del Mar programs up at the site in the old Rancho Del Mar site, and to utilize some of the staff, the RDM staff, to help with some of the independent study kids that'll be coming in. We'll also have K through 8 kids coming once a week to meet with their independent study teachers. So we're going to have that be our alternative school site. And so we're busy planning that. We have about 60 RDM kids, plus another, how many independent study kids? K-8, about?
K-8, we have 57.
It's about 57. So it's enough kids to where we think it's better at a one school site, and that'll be like our alternative school, and we can utilize staff, do a better job with serving all of our alternative kids. So that's one of the things that's in the works right now. And then we're getting a lot of questions from parents about next year. I'm happy to report that we were able to provide flexibility for families that do want to opt into independent study until their child is vaccinated and then come back to the school site. So we made that option available, and we notified parents of that option as well, to be flexible with those kids. So that concludes my report at this time, and I wish everyone a nice break, a nice summer. I thank our staff for everything they've done for our students during this year. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Chernis. Questions, comments for Dr. Chernis? And I just want to clarify with the independent study that the board had asked, and you also were trying to develop a robust online program. But when the numbers came back, it was just maybe 30, 40 students who actually wanted an online-only program. So that just wasn't practical for us to be able to do. But we wanted to, just the numbers didn't work out. Thank you, sir. Next, we will move to the item J, Citizens Oversight Committee for Measure M, the 2021 Annual Report. Please let Gretchen Karner in.
Good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Great. Good evening, Dr. Chernis, members of the school board and staff, and members of the public who are listening. I'm Gretchen Karner, the chairman of the Citizens Oversight Committee for Measure M. As you all know, Measure M was passed to replace 2 other local school funding measures that were set to expire, and the money collected from everybody's parcel tax bill is used for the kids, and Measure M set forth specific things that it was supposed to be used for. For instance, keeping classroom technology up to date and making sure we have great teachers, experience, and we have technology support, et cetera. This wasn't for facilities. Teachers, experience. Can you hear me? Okay, anyway, I'll make this quick. So to date, Measure M has generated $71 million in revenue for the district. And the last school year, the 2019 to 20, we collected $8.9 million. The job of the Citizens Oversight Committee is to make sure that the money was spent in the way that the board allocated it. And it was. We were able to speak with the auditor and ask questions, and we made sure that the money was spent correctly. 85% of it was spent for 70 full-time teachers, which was $7.6 million. 5% of it was spent for 9 full-time tech staff people to help with technology in all of the classrooms. 5% was used for advanced math and science programs, and 5% was used to update or keep classroom technology up to date, including the purchase of Chromebooks, document cameras, projectors, screens, and software. So that pretty much summarizes my report. We have lodged or submitted a letter report for you. And in addition, a few years ago, thanks to Jeff Frankel, we created a little, there it is, a summary sheet that can be posted hopefully on the website that can be an easy place for members of the public to look to see what the money was spent on for the particular year and what money we anticipate getting for next year. And as you can see under the financial summary, it shows that we're hoping to get 9.1 million next year in the Measure M revenues. So I'd just like to thank the members of Measure M publicly because, you know, we do meet and we take our job seriously to make sure that the funds are being spent correctly because we all want to make sure that our tax money is actually going to fund things that we voted on. So the membership this year was Kristen Curran, John Letcher, Curran Mohammadi, David Offenberg, Stacy San, Anthony Self Jr., and Jill Surace. So I'd like to thank them very much for being on this committee and taking their jobs very seriously. So thank you for your time, and if you have any questions, let me know.
Thank you. Mr. Phillips?
Yeah, thanks, Gretchen, and appreciate all the work you do and the members of the committee. And I actually like that report because it kind of does lay out in a manner that most members of the public can understand how the money gets spent. And I wish that this document had such a communication vehicle because I don't think this is very customer friendly. But how are we getting that distributed not just to the school families, which, you know, through our normal channels, but also to all the taxpayers who pay the parcel tax? Because, you know, they have the right to know how their money is being used and it's being properly used. And we have a great committee of volunteers that is making sure that the money is being properly used.
Right. Well, I think it's posted on the website, but we do need to come up with maybe some better ways to publicize it. And also for next year, if we need to get a graphic artist involved, I would like to make it put a little bit more information, less text, and maybe a little bit more helpful information on there. I don't know if you guys can help with that, but
I'm sure we can find a volunteer from the community with that background.
maybe we can. So I'm reaching out. Contact me, Gretchen Karner. I think my email's online because we would love some assistance in that regard to make sure that we are communicating with the community about these funds because we feel that that's very important.
Thank you. Megan, Linda? Ms. Carter, thank you for your service, and please thank your fellow committee members. It means a lot to us that you give up your time to make sure that, you know, A, we're in compliance, and that we also receive your guidance on where you believe that this money should go. So thank you very much for your service, and have a great night.
Thank you so much. Thanks for putting me early. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Good night.
Thanks, Gretchen.
Budget. Speaking of budget, where's Kathy? Hi, Kathy.
Hi, I think that the first item in budget is the LCAP, so if you have
But can
something.
you bring the microphone a little bit closer?
Sure. Sometimes I talk too loud. There. Is that better?
Hey, Dr. Katanda, are you taking this one?
I am. So item number 1 is the approval of the district LCAP. It's the first year of a 3-year LCAP for 21-24, and the draft was presented at our last meeting, and this is here for our final approval. Upon approval, we'll be sending it to the county office for their review and approval as well.
Is there a motion that the board approve the year 1 of the Palos Verdes Peninsula Unified School District's local control and accountability plan that covers a 3-year period beginning July 1st, 2021 through June 30th, 2024?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? Seeing no discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, please say nay. Motion carries. Number 2, Dr. Katanda, or is that Kathy now?
So the next item is the presentation of the 21-22 district budget. We did do a presentation at the public hearing a couple of weeks ago that went into more of an overall picture, but the intent of tonight's presentation is to go into a bit of specifics on certain items in the budget. So we decided to, as I just mentioned, give some additional clarification and detail on certain aspects of the 21-22 adopted budget. We'll go over the one-time funding sources and how we're planning to spend those, specifically highlighting IT, or technology, I guess I should say, one-time compensation as well as mental health. We're going to discuss E-rate a bit, deferred maintenance, and also OPEB. So I know that we've presented this information before, but just to remind everybody what one-time funding we're talking about, these are the 3 funding sources that we are referring to when we refer to one-time COVID-related funding in the next budget year. At the top, it's broken into 2 different sections. We have the in-person instruction grant that we're receiving about $3.1 million, and then the expanded learning opportunities grant, which is $6.6 million. The in-person instruction has a much broader area that we can use the funds for, primarily just, again, like it says, for in-person instruction, anything we need to do to reopen. Expanded learning opportunities is a lot more restrictive. The board did approve the ELO plan on May 26th. Those funds, as I mentioned, have a more restricted use, and 85% of them must be used for activities provided in person, and at least 10% need to go towards hiring or paying classified paraprofessional staff. We have an additional source of funding under ESSER 2. We're receiving just under $1 million for that. It has, again, a very broad range of things that we can use those monies for, and we'll be going into that in a bit more detail in a couple of slides. And then lastly, ESSER 3, which is very similar to ESSER 2, except that there is a restriction that we need to spend 20% of the funding for learning loss mitigation, and we have to publish a reopening plan within 30 days of receiving our funds, and that's not an issue for us because obviously we've already done that. So we've presented this slide previously, but we're bringing it back so that you can kind of see how we're spending the various one-time funding sources and in what fiscal year. At the top is ESSER 1, which is some funds that we received in the current fiscal year. We will be spending all of those in 2021, or have already spent them by now. And then if we skip to the bottom, the 3 that are labeled LLM, those were the CARES Act funds, and we will also have spent those before we close the books for the current year. But looking forward, we will be spending a little bit of ELO, and which is the expanded learning, and the IPI in-person instruction in 2021, but the bulk of those funds will be spent in 21-22, and we will have some additional details on the next couple of slides. And then ESSER 2 and 3 we're looking to spend in 22-23 and 23-24.
So before we start the next slide, it's important to understand that this is will constantly be revised. And so we're going to have another revision in September when we look at how much we spend on Jumpstart, and we'll talk about where we're going to allocate the money. We heard from the board at the last meeting to address, how are we addressing our facilities projects, HVAC, where are we going to put money into these technology needs? So this will be a constant revision of how we spend the one-time money, and the board will have an opportunity every step of the way to discuss where the board thinks we should allocate this money. So this is very much the ELO requires this revision for that same reason. We have $9 million that we're budgeting to spend next year in one-time money out of this ELO, right? So this is not set in stone expenditures. These are general expenditures that we've set, and the board can continue to adjust as we go through.
Thank you.
So jumping right into the IPI grant or in person, we have already discussed or we spent about $130,000 on the employee child care subsidy. So that already has been part of those expenses you saw on the previous slide that we're recognizing for this year. Going down to 21-22, we have also discussed reopening one-time compensation with staff, so that is budgeted in here, payable out in 21-22 for what was discussed in 2021. We have 20 extra period assignments. The board did say that you wanted us to continue to look at trying to support that to the extent that it's needed for staffing, so we will also be assigning one-time funds to that to support 20. Or up to 20. We have, just for reference, 26 of them also budgeted in general fund. So we're not limited to just this 20, but between the two spaces, there's 46. Another thing is capital projects, so HVAC, playground improvements, et cetera. This is just one piece of it that's positioned here. And we're kind of going through an assessment of the school sites. Myself and Board Member Crawford are actually meeting with some folks and a team. We're going to be going out to some of the sites to look at some different things that we can do and then try to get some costing and some more detailed information that we will be bringing back to the board before we expend these funds or award them anywhere. We likely will have to put it out to RFP given the dollar figure for it. So again, they'll change as we go along.
So back on those 20 extra period, I think those are the famous .2s, right?
Yes, they are.
Okay, so what are we using those 20 extra period assignments to do?
So some of them are where we've had assignments where we haven't filled the vacancy. I think Dr. Gatanda and Dr. Ramirez have done a very comprehensive job of meeting with the school sites to try to reduce that overall number that we had from, say, previous years and going into this year, and this is the number that we've established. I mean, do you have some specificity? I think the 26 we know, the 20 are just, we're still determining.
Yeah, so we're continuing to make sure that with new enrollments and as we have changes that we're able to kind of make it flexible. And then we also have some staffing changes because we do have some staff that are resigning. So that also kind of changes the master schedule a little bit in terms of what those assignments look like.
Because I thought one of the things we talked about doing was increasing intervention and doing that through the .2s and potentially doing that through also 7-period middle school.
So it's a great thing that you just said that because I actually have an email open that's going out to our principals that we're going to meet around intervention. So I did have some initial conversations with our secondary principals about potential intervention sections during the day, but also what does it look like, whether it's a before or after school as well. I have also included some of that intervention money in our ELO plan. And so while it may not be in the IPI, I also have included some intervention monies in ELO as well.
Okay, thanks.
Can I follow up on that? Because that was one of the questions I had as well. And also, is there anything specific for our English language learners in terms of learning loss and in-person instruction?
So we always have, at our secondary schools, we did have new legislation that came out 2 years ago that basically said that our English learners needed to have a regular English class, but we have been continuing to fund an additional section for support, particularly for students who are newcomers to our country and who have limited English skills. As students acquire more English skills, we do encourage them to go out into general education and have what we would consider the least restrictive environment and the most exposure to the English language. That being said, part of my conversations with the principals are also how we can continue to intensify some of their supports. So some of the conversations we've had with some of our principals include potential staffing to do push-in support, whether it's an aide that wouldn't necessarily have been at the site previously, and or things that are happening before or after school for our ELs.
That's not a .2 issue. The .2 is for either staffing problems or intervention if we need more math teachers or something like that.
That is correct,
Okay.
yeah. And I think one of the things that I've tried to do when working with the school sites is really making sure that we're mindful of, courses that potentially could use a lower class size. So while our ratio might be 34:1, it might be more conducive to certain classrooms to have a smaller, student to teacher ratio in order to support the students in the course that might need more.
Okay, and I think that's what Rick was getting at as well. Okay, thank you.
So jumping over to the ELO, which again, we did adopt this, and you saw it in May. This is a summary of everything that is in the ELO plan that we went through with our goals, and we've actually went through this in detail. To the extent that some of these funds that you see here are not used, we will be again revisiting that come September to allocate into another area of focus that we see that we kind of need to spend more if we spent less here, and it's just going to be constantly moving. So for right now, though, we did have to sit there and put goals with all these and put estimates based on what we knew at the time of preparing this document. So I don't want to hit too much. Then we have ESSER 2. That was a little less than $1 million. So we have PPE in here. I want to point out that like PPE and testing and stuff like that, we originally assigned a value to, but since this time and since we've done it, but we would have to change like the entire budget coming back. The Cal OES office has designated the LACO office as being a recipient of different PPE. We can request that actually twice a month, and we put in a request, and then we have our staff go and pick it up at LACO. But a lot of our expenses we thought we might have in this area are actually going to be less than expected due to the fact that we will be getting that support from the Office of Emergency Services through LACO. And so we can get that. And then later on, I'll also be coming back. You probably saw that we did take out testing because we had put in an application for testing, not to take away from that. But again, we have a grant that we are eligible for. So we've actually moved some of the testing over to that. So next, you have the classroom furniture, more window repairs. There's still some windows we have been unable to repair. So we're looking at replacements and then some other things for airflow in the classroom along with HVAC. But with HVAC, as I mentioned, comes the electrical capacity. So that's why we've assembled a team to go out to the sites and start to make assessments. Finally, you have technology with SR2. We have $300,000 there. That's just kind of a smidge of it. Overall, there will be $3.1 million, as you see, kind of over the course of all of these funds. And that, again, was presented in a previous meeting as to what the priorities were for that. ESSER 3, that's where we have the Jumpstart Summer Academy. That is future for the future summer. So like we already have this summer funded, we're going to earmark that for a program the following summer, knowing that we still probably need to continue our work there. Technology has an allocation under this also, along with HVAC again in this category. And then finally, the balance of funds that would be available under ESSER 3 in the final year, again, have been assigned to technology. Jumping over with all the technology notes, we talked a little bit about technology and E-rate. Staff has secured 3 quotes to help with the help of a consultant. I can do, as I mentioned, a good amount of the work, but for category 2, we will have to get some support for that. So we will be bringing a recommendation back for a consultant, and we're going to be probably interviewing that with staff and then making a recommendation. But with that, I have looked, and we are definitely eligible and have $1.8 million sitting out there in available funds. And then with that, we can use our one-time funds as our 60% match. So leverage that to do a little bit more with our technology goals and meeting those over what would be 2 to 3 years. We would probably have to put it into 2 because I can only extend E-rate funds so far once the allocation's made. So we might have to pull that ESSER 3, but that's okay because I can use it any time up until that last year. So that's kind of how we structured that. And then deferred maintenance. So we've had some discussions about this. I want to take you straight to probably the expenditure for 2021, 2022 of $402,000. That was partially there for the roofing. As you know, we are going to actually hold off on roofing until the following year. And with that, we have $1 million plus our standard $300,000 that we have been putting in here. So again, for deferred maintenance, we can continue to look at some of those facilities priorities that we identify and use this funding again here. And then we still do have some playground improvements to make that are routine.
So on that, when the bond failed, we kind of talked about the need to kind of put $1 million in a year and really spend $1 million a year because we didn't have a bond to renew our facilities. And like we had talked about doing seismic assessments, I think, at several of our campuses and doing structural. So why aren't those included in the budget?
So we are reallocating the money that we would have spent on roofing to deferred maintenance to cover that for this year.
But the roofing kind of stuff we'd always been doing prior to the bond measure, right? And so that was kind of the patch it, patch the plant together and hold it till we got a bond measure. Then we didn't get the bond measure, and we all said that one of the reasons for the bond measure was there was all this work that needed to be done. So why aren't we trying to do some of that work out of the deferred maintenance fund?
We can, the consulting work, though, we can use our facility funds. So we don't need to use deferred. Deferred, we should really use for maintenance type stuff. So like, for example, to do the consulting assessment that we've talked about with our FAC, we can use our facility fund to fund that. With respect to Fund 14, which is our deferred maintenance, we can look at transferring more from the general fund, and we can adjust that absolutely this summer. And one thing that I would suggest to the board is the legislature passed the budget, but they sort of passed a placeholder budget because the governor didn't bring forth the details of what the funding would look like. So my suggestion is we come back to the board in August with a revised budget once we know exactly what the governor's going to be funding, what the state will be funding. At that time, we'll look at our deferred maintenance budget. If that's something the board wants to put more general fund money into, we can do it at that time. But for now, based on reallocation of the roofing money, we should be okay with extra funding in deferred for this year. But again, I think we come back again in August anyways. Because this is a weird year where the legislature just kind of did a placeholder approval. And so I think we should come back to it.
So just to give a bit more detail on what OPEB looks like in the 21-22 budget, we're currently budgeting pay-as-you-go. I'm sure you remember several members of the BAC did a great job presenting the results of their detailed analysis on options for funding, but that was just presented at the last meeting. So at this point, we are just moving forward with pay-as-you-go. We can obviously revise that at any point during the upcoming fiscal year. And the pay-as-you-go amount that we're using is based on the actual number of retirees that we have in place, as well as the employees that we know are retiring in the current year. So that's where the $516,000 comes from. We are looking to have both PARs and PERS do a trust presentation in either August or September, and we'll also be looking for BAC input on where we should go, how we should move forward with potentially a trust. I know we've discussed a few times about the potential of having Nyhart, our actuarial consultant, do an experience study. And what that would do is they would look at our actual history of retirees and salaries at retirement and how many take benefits, as opposed to using sort of a standard set of assumptions that they use using CalPERS data. So if the board gave us direction to move forward with that, we could ask them to do that, which could potentially adjust our liabilities for OPEB. I couldn't tell you whether it would go up or down, but they would use our data instead of standard assumptions. And then again, as I mentioned before, we can come back at first interim with a revision to how we're budgeting for OPEB pending the trust presentation and board direction. So that's the end of the presentation. I don't think we have any more slides, so open it up for questions.
Can I ask a quick question, Matt? On the HVAC work, that's repairs, correct? That's not air conditioning our classrooms that are unfortunately still not air conditioned. So that's why it's maintenance. It's not a new. Anything.
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay.
That's correct. Not that we can't use some one-time money on new equipment.
That's where I'm thinking,
Which we
yeah.
can
Okay.
do. It's very expensive, so we
No,
have to
I understand, and
prioritize, but-
that was the whole problem we had before, was once you start, you say, oh, let's put air conditioning, then you have electrical problems and all these other things that you have to deal with at every single place. So I understand that. I just was wondering. So this is just repairs for current existing HVAC stuff. Okay, thanks.
Is there a motion that the board approve the 21-22 budget as presented?
I motion that the board approve the 21-22 budget as presented.
Is there a second?
Second?
Any further discussion?
Yeah. So, I don't know, I've been on the board 3.5 years now. I think we've had once a meaningful discussion about how we actually would change the budget. The first year I was on, I was told it's kind of, this budget train, and you just got to kind of go with it because there isn't much time. And I came on in February, so it was really early in the budget cycle. We did put a BAC in place, but I still feel that we don't have meaningful discussions teed up for how we should be spending our money, either here or in the BAC, so that we're really impacting the budget. And I guess this was kind of brought home to me by watching a meeting yesterday, which was the city of PVE. They had $1.5 million in one-time money to allocate, and they were juggling with 3 different priorities to do it, and they had a staff recommendation. They went through 3 different votes, all 3-2. One passed, the others were 2-3, until they actually came to a decision in how to spend that money. And that $1.5 million was 7.5% roughly of their budget. And I just don't feel like we've gotten to that process where we get real input and ability to affect the budget. And so I'd like to figure out how do we get to a better place that way. And I think one of my big goals has been to try and get the BAC more involved and actually giving us advice on how to allocate priorities. And I know this year we had a budget session, but we've never really been involved in enough, in my opinion, in really determining the priorities of how the money should get spent, which is kind of, I think, one of our fundamental duties. And we also still don't have in the, at least if you look at the unrestricted budget, we still don't have a balanced budget goal, which I think has been a desire and guidance of the majority of the board for multiple years now.
Understood. Thank you. Anybody else? So Rick, I agree with you. Just maybe, how do we get there? What do we need to do to get there so that we can have these deeper discussions that you want?
I mean, I think we need to spend more time on it, and maybe more special meetings or workshops, either in conjunction with the BAC or as a board. But I just don't think we spend enough time on the budget and really setting. And I mean, Linda's been on the board longer than me, and I do remember that one year we did basically make some trade-offs to make, I forget, $2 million in cuts, I think is what the number was. That was my first year, but we really haven't made real budgetary decisions that have gotten us to that balanced budget that I keep trying to get to. And granted, we have a ton of one-time money next year, so it's a little different for next year in terms of how our budgets, but we really, I think we've all expressed a desire, for example, to have more on HVAC, right? In terms of how we spend that money. And I was glad to see that there is some more there. I think we've all expressed a desire to attack the OPEB problem, but we haven't really attacked the OPEB problem in this budget yet. But BAC spent a big portion of the year discussing it, and we've spent a fair amount of our time. And I think we've all talked about that we want to do more on the intervention front, that we want to do something around the 7th period middle school day. And I know this is going to come up with the music discussion. Part of my, reason for advocating a 7th period middle school day is to provide elective choice, so kids don't have to choose between music and STEM. They can do both, or whatever their passions are. But and that we can also provide intervention to more students, because right now I know, like, intervention at the middle school level. If you're targeted for intervention, you get intervention for a third of the year, and that's just not enough. Right, and then it's another group that gets it the next trimester, another group that gets it the third. So I don't know how we get that reflected in this document, right? And also from this document, I can't tell that any of those things are being done, right? I mean, these are the standard, state forms, but they don't really give the public any insight in terms of truly how we're spending our budget on programs.
Well, I do think that this coming year is a great time to start with this goal and make real progress, and make progress beginning in August, when we'll come back to the board and we'll ask for real direction on how to spend, upwards of $10 million on kids for the year. So I think that we can get there. I think we have made progress. We've had two study sessions. We've made a concerted effort to involve the BAC more, but there's clearly room for growth. I would propose we bring the budget back in August. We go through our one-time expenses in August. We let give the board options, but also have them, have the board, they're ultimately have to make the decisions on how we spend that money. And so I think it's a good goal for next year, and I do see a path forward.
Terrific, thank you. So there's a motion that the board approve the 2021-22 budget as presented. It was seconded. Is there any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Discussion action, L1, COVID-19 school and community updates. Dr. Chernus.
So I'm going to turn it over to Brenna to discuss the status of the COVID testing. The county is offering a program now, a funding mechanism for testing. And so I'd like Brenna to just update the board and the community on what that program looks like and what our options are as regarding testing for next year.
Dr. Chernus, that would be in addition to or separate than L4, which is the school-based COVID-19 testing program funding?
Yeah.
That is it. L4 is what I would be speaking to.
So that's my community update.
Okay,
So
so
we can do.
we can move past L1 and go to L2.
Yeah, I don't believe Kathy's here, so we can.
We should probably stick with L4. I'll do it when we get to L4 since that's agendized there,
Right.
is what you're, yes.
That's what I'm
Okay,
saying.
no problem.
Okay, thanks. Okay. Elementary music program. Please let our public speakers who are on Zoom in.
So thank you, President Brock, members of the board. I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Gatonda. We've had quite a bit of data. We've reached out to the community on the best way to improve our music program. And so I will allow Dr. Gatonda to give a brief overview of where we are with that. We also have some obviously speakers and some guests to offer insight as well.
Thank you, Dr. Chernus, President Brock, members of the board. So I'd like to speak a little bit about the elementary music program. So I want to start with saying that we definitely value music in our district. We value really strong programs for our students. And, the review of our music program is not the intention to eliminate the program. It really is to look at what is the best way that we can provide a comprehensive visual and performing arts experience for our kids, K through 5. And in talking about what that looks like, I know that there has been some concern around moving it to before and after school. Right now we have before school for an optional fee. Our goal is to really kind of look at our program and say what is the best thing for our kids so that they can have an experience that they can learn to love. And if they don't love it, that's okay. At least they actually get, the experience to actually understand if they could love it, just because I think exposure at the elementary level is the most important. That being said, in July 2020, the state did pass new visual and performing arts standards, and inclusive of those standards are music, but also with our other arts portions. So things like choir, theater, and also visual arts, which could be hands-on art or drawing and painting. We do have a number of partnerships in our district that are very strong. We want to continue those partnerships with those folks who, like Art at Your Fingertips or our art center that's in our community. So we want to continue those partnerships. We want to make sure that we have a comprehensive experience from K through 5 or TK through 5. Additionally, I think our teachers are also doing a lot of things in their classrooms related to visual and performing arts. And so we want to take a look at our program so that we make sure that it's comprehensive. That being said, we did actually survey our community, and Ms. Westcott's going to pull up the she's going to pull up the survey results. In a very short amount of time, we did get a number of responses. So as she's pulling it up, I can actually share that we have had over 1,000 responses to our survey, and in that we have also had about 481 who actually, and at the time that we pulled this, it was this morning because we needed to post it, but 481 who wanted to stay with our current program. We had two proposals on there. It was 605 who wanted to do a during the day program that encompasses all parts of visual and performing arts. And then proposal 2 was to do a before and after school program. That being said, we also had them rate our current elementary school music program, and then there was a place for comments. And then obviously the comments, there was a lot of them, so we didn't post those comments as well. That being said, we also have some of our principals here to join us. So we're here to answer any questions or that the board might have so that we can answer them.
Thank you. And I know that we have 17 public speakers tonight that we want to get through. However, I would like the board to be able to ask just a few questions before we get to public speakers for clarification, if anybody has questions for clarification before we get to public comments.
I guess I just have a process question. Are we being asked, is the board being asked to decide anything? Are we being asked to, because we haven't been asked to decide anything yet, are we simply taking a deep breath and taking feedback from staff and community? Are we going to be asked to make a decision in the future, or are we just, is this an information collecting process? I just want to kind of figure out both what the goal of the program is and then what our goal is specifically.
My understanding was this would be to direct staff in a direction.
And what's in this budget document for the program next year? I mean, what is the program that's budgeted for?
So the current program, we're rolling over the current budget. So pre-pandemic, it would have been about $400,000 a year that we spend on this program.
Thanks.
And to Ms. Reed's question, we currently have the existing program. If it's based on the data that we have, based on the discussion that we have, based on it looks like that there's strong interest in keeping music during the day, based on the survey data, at least. So at that point, it would be some direction from the board would be good as far as whether we look to try to improve the program, which we think is a good idea, expand the program and further align it to the VAPA standards. So this is not a yes, no. This is to hear from the board, but you're not making an ultimate decision tonight to that point. This is not a vote yes or no for music. We know we want music. We know we don't want to cut music. We've heard from many of our principals that we can improve this program, and based on the data from the survey, the majority of our parents agree with that. So with that, Mr. Brock.
Thank you. Dr. Katana, what was the impetus for this change?
So a couple things. I mean, I think that, we've heard from our principals that there are ways that I think that we can improve our program. Staffing has been a challenge for us. We have a number of staff who we employ, and so we do have a number of music specialists, but many of them are working very few hours, and so it becomes very difficult to staff them, and sometimes we're working around personal schedules, and so it makes it a little bit more difficult to staff because sometimes people are only working, 10 hours a week or 15 hours a week or whatever it might be. So, we've had that challenge. We also have a few people who have retired this year or have left our district. And so in looking at restaffing, the challenge of being able to fill those positions in, I think is a great one, considering that some of those folks that we are going to be filling in for, it's a 10-hour-a-week job. And so we may or may not find somebody. So it is a definite staffing challenge. And then additionally, we are looking at the start of the school year and what is that going to look like? Just because we're coming off of a very long school closure, a short reopening, and then what does that look like in terms of getting kids, class time. I 100% agree with what Dr. Coleman said about, music is a really nice respite for kids, and not doing all of the academic thinking is a really good thing. So, I think that was the impetus, and obviously we'll take.
I will say there's also credentialing issues. So we're not supposed to have kids with adults that aren't credentialed. And that is happening in this program. And so that is something that we need to remedy and we need to figure out. I would like to hear from to answer that question, I would like our principals to be able to address that question as well, though.
On with this, we have Ms. Hadley from Point Vicente, Mr. Bernal from Lunada Bay, and we have Ms. Wildy, who is currently in educational services, with previously the principal and teacher at Cornerstone.
Thank you for joining us tonight.
Sure. So,
Ms.
thank you
Wiley,
for
would
having
you like
us
to
here and
start,
inviting
or?
us. Yeah, I wasn't sure. Beth, did you want to start or?
Sure, I'm happy to start. First, I want to thank the board for their interest in hearing concerns that we do have about our program. And I want to reassure the community and again say to the board that, you know, as a group, the elementary administration are committed to a program for the arts for our students. We feel that our current program works well for some students at some schools, but we don't feel like it's a consistent program district-wide. And there are some consistent issues in spite of a great deal of effort on our part and on many of the musician teachers to address some of the weaknesses, but that we are committed to providing a strong arts program based on the VAPA standards for our children. And we just think that the program could be better. But we wanted to thank the board for their interest and for their support.
Thank you, Principal Hadley.
Sure. I was just going to piggyback on some of the comments about the VAPA standards, which were recently approved in July 2020. And so I kind of think of it sometimes like our textbook adoptions that we undergo when we need to make improvements. And when we look at the carefully planned, implemented, and they continuously evolve over time. So we just want to make sure as our district is doing those same things. I think the standards have changed and evolved a lot over the time. So we wanted to have that discussion about how are we making those involvements. And as well, one of the other reasons that this change came up was also what Dr. Chernus mentioned, was concern about supervision with our students because of the fact that we do need to have credentialed teachers. So I think it isn't something that just came up right now this year. It's been talked about for the past few years with the elementary principals over time. And one of the things we thought was it would be a great opportunity to kind of look at what does this look like. And I know after the past year and a half of some learning loss and kids out of classrooms, we were thinking, okay, what could we do as a group? So it came back up, it resurfaced as we were coming back up this year.
Susie, on the VAPA standards, what's the timeline that we have to conform to those standards?
Well, we should be conforming to them. We want to include all of them: dance, media, arts, music, theater, and visual arts. And I think in some ways, parts of it are covered. We've got art at your fingertips. We do have some programs. And I also think that there's an equity piece with some schools that might have booster funded performing arts, but other schools and elementary schools may not have that. So if we were able to have a consistent VAPA sort of a program, then we're ensuring that all 10 elementary schools are getting exposure to all of these strands versus one school getting it because their booster is supporting it, but another school isn't getting it. So I think part of it is that alignment and equity piece that we wanted to look at as well.
And then what existed from the state standards standpoint prior to July 2020? Or what was the change?
Dr. Katanda, do you know that one?
Yeah, so I would say that there were standards in place before. So that was part of the ed code that we were doing, all of the arts. What they are is they are much more comprehensive and they've been updated, right? So they do include things like, it's not just a one-off dance or a one-off art. They are more comprehensive. There is pieces in there that also tie to literacy, and there's, art history. So there's other things that are part of these new standards that have been updated, and they're, I was an art teacher, so I want to say it's probably been a 10, 15-year update. So, they really have kind of updated it so that it's a little bit more comprehensive, I would say, for students in grades kindergarten through 12th grade. At the high school level and the secondary level, it's much more complicated, but at the elementary level, it is really just about exposure, but a more comprehensive exposure.
I want to get to public speakers.
I think you have Mr. Bernal, I think, is on as well. Did he want to speak?
Mr. Bernal, did you have something to say, please?
I really can just saying the same thing that Ms. Hadley said and Ms. Wiley. Well, also good evening to the board and everyone here tonight. But I see this, my perspective is there's an opportunity here where we can do better. So I think working together, we can do that. And give something comprehensive that our students deserve. So I look forward to the work we're going to do. Thank you.
Thank you, Principal Bernal. So my understanding is that the impetus behind this was the VAPA standards. It was the inconsistency in instruction and the inequity between programs and their visual and performing arts.
And supervision and staffing.
Supervision and staffing, okay. So what I would like to do is, typically we can limit discussion to 15 minutes. However, this is a topic that I want to hear everybody on. So I do not wish to limit comments unless the board chooses otherwise. But I do ask that if you can, to keep your statements brief so that everybody has a chance to speak. And with that...
Aren't we using the 3-minute rule?
We have the 3-minute rule, and there you are entitled to speak, as I said before, to 3 minutes, but I'm asking to, if you don't have something new to add, to keep it brief so that we have a chance to hear everybody. So we will start with 3 minutes, and what I would like to do is we are going to kind of alternate between in person and then who we have on Zoom. So Ms. Jean Strickland, if you would please come up to the BOE guest podium. Welcome. And you may begin when ready.
It's Jean Strickland. I have a master's degree in music education. I taught music education in LAUSD for 9 years and PVPUSD for over 12 years. I served as a national music consultant with a leading educational publishing company with elementary music education materials. In this position, I led music workshops, staff development, and teacher training across the country, instructed music teachers and general ed teachers in schools throughout Europe, Bahrain, and Japan. I attended and presented at music education state and national conferences throughout the country. In California, I have been active in the California Legislative Action Committee for Arts Education. I was president of the Los Angeles Orff Schulwerk Association, state representative for California Music Educators Association for Elementary Music, and received the State Award for California Elementary Music Educator of the Year by CMEA. I'm sharing my background to demonstrate my experience in the field of music education and to inform you why I think that the decision you are considering for our elementary music program needs great consideration. Elementary music education means a lot to me, and as you have seen by reading the comments from our community, it means a lot to many. The decision you are about to make will affect music education for thousands of students for many years to come. Once you let go of the existing program, it will be next to impossible to build it back. Sending out the email blast to all district parents for their feedback was, in my opinion, careless, and the result does not provide a sound basis for a good decision. You cannot condense each of these 3 program options to 1 paragraph and expect the responses to be useful. Asking parents to rate the current music program with stars was not thought through. How many of the parents have attended a music class? How many principals have observed a music class and offered feedback to the music teachers? How many principals and district administrators know what a valid elementary music curriculum should include? Have you asked parents to rate other elementary core programs, math or reading or science, in an email blast? Building a quality music education program in a school district doesn't happen easily or quickly. Losing a quality program does. Do not make this decision quickly. Make this decision with care and with the input of district and community music educators who know what a good program can be. I vote for the music curriculum to be within the instructional school day with no fewer hours than what we have now, in a designated music room and provided to all of our students. Where the subject matter is placed in the day demonstrates its assumed importance. Outside the school day does not provide equity and access to all students. For equity and access reasons for all
Ms. Strickland,
students.
if I can get you to finish up, please.
I will. 2 sentence more.
Okay.
All subjects under the ESSA Every Student Succeeds Act should be placed within the school day. Secure our 30-week or more music program, then build on the other arts disciplines. I am available, and others are who are willing to help. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Ms. Westcott, can we have Nikos Constant?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Great. My name is Nikos Constant, and I'm a resident of Rolling Hills. I went to Vista Grande Elementary School from 1976 to 1982 and was highly influenced by the music program at that time. I'm a little older now. I'm an attorney, and I've mostly worked in the arts my whole career. And so, just one comment I wanted to make about how important a music program is, and especially a music program that's consistent, and is that a music program at a very young age, what it teaches you, I think, are really 3 things. Number one, it starts teaching you about tempo. So when you're young, you need to, I feel that you need to start understanding the way the tempo of the world works. What that ends up leading to is it leads to a professionalism that I really think that if you can instill that in the elementary school level, it's professionalism that leads you throughout your life. And finally, I was here at a very early part of of building the infrastructure of the music program in Palos Verdes. And so I really hope as a resident who will have a son going to these schools pretty soon, I really hope that what I received back in 1976, I can still receive for my kids today. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Mr. Constant. Okay. Mr. Daniel Dirks. Did I say that wrong?
You got it right.
Okay. Welcome, sir.
Hello, and thank you for allowing me to speak at this evening. I'd like to share my views on why taking away music education at the elementary school level during school hours is not only detrimental to the middle school and high school music programs, but also a ludicrous idea in the scope of education. My name is Dana Dirks, and I'm an incoming junior at Peninsula High School. I am also the assistant drum major for the Peninsula High School Marching Band. If required music classes were taken away at the elementary school level, there would be a significant decline in music program enrollment. This is because many parents and students do not have the time and sometimes the money to take their children to these after-school activities. By taking away school music during the school day, you often see many students that had a sight of fun experiences taken away from them. I see it as putting kids at a disadvantage if they choose to pursue music at a higher level. This also negatively affects music educators. If you were to decrease the amount of students in any class, you would also decrease the number of teachers you will need to teach that class. Not only does this mean that my favorite teachers could lose their jobs, but it also means that they are forced to live somewhere else where their music credentials are needed more. This is simply not acceptable. Furthermore, if this idea becomes a reality, kids will never know if they would enjoy music or not. When I was in elementary school, I didn't know I loved music, nor did I thoroughly enjoy any other subject for that matter. But that isn't the point. If I didn't do music in elementary school, I would not have joined the middle school band and therefore the high school band. That means I would not have fallen in love with music playing, and the creation of music, which I still enjoy today and will still enjoy for the rest of my life. With the jump start that I got from playing music before middle school, playing the trumpet has also become a competition in some aspects. I would often strive and practice as much as I could to reach for the goal of being the best trumpeter in class. It's like playing a sport, where if you practice more, you can get better. It's the same concept for music. Not only was music something I enjoyed and still enjoy doing, but is one of the only things I find myself having fun doing. I was never a sports kid, and I know many students are the same way. Music is an opportunity for kids who don't enjoy sports to finally find something they love doing, as it was for me. My next point is, I would not have such a successful life at my age if it wasn't for elementary school music. Once I figured out I was gifted at playing music, I started teaching elementary school students for a job. If music declines in enrollment because it is taken out of elementary school curriculum, then I wouldn't be teaching the 5 amazing students I have today. Not only is it fun to teach my students music, but I get a stronger sense of responsibility and maturity that I would not be getting if music was taken away. Lastly, I find that music is very fun and intriguing for elementary schoolers, which is very important. 2 of my trumpet students have gone out of their way, as in it was when they played their music in their free time without me signing it as homework, and recorded videos of their friends and family playing music along with them. That shows that they enjoy music at their age, something that is not only puts a smile on my face, but puts a smile on the face of their friends and families, especially when they go to listen to those videos in the future. It's experiences like this that make music such an amazing thing. Thank you for listening to my views, and I appreciate your time.
Well stated, Mr. Dirks, and congratulations on your drum major. That's an impressive task. Okay, next we will go to Ms. Deborah Schrader.
Thank you, Board of Education. I am one of the music teachers that is teaching in the elementary school. And as a matter of fact, I did a survey of all of the teachers, and half of us are credentialed. We are just not hired as credentialed teachers for the school district. I've been with the Palos Verdes School District since 1996. I took a break for a few years and then I came back, and I was happy to come back as a part-time teacher because it fit in with my schedule. I want to say that out of concern for the quick survey that was done by the district, the students are said to go through a rotation of several weeks of programs. And I noticed that there is no mention of instrumental music. Instrumental music takes many years of study and discipline. And I think that that's something that really worries me. I endorse doing credentialed teachers, but you have to pay them well and you have to include them in the program for employment. I did the survey that I sent to each of the board members, and I'm willing to share it with anyone in the community. I got 455 responses as of this afternoon. And I want to read just one of the comments that came from that 450-some people. This comes from Stephen Yu, who is a resident of Rolling Hills Estates, and he says, "Without elementary school music, I would not be an airline pilot today. It was through discovering the love of musical instruments in 5th grade that I developed self-discipline through practicing, leadership skills through becoming a drum major at PV High School and the PV High School marching band, and the self-confidence to go after my dream of becoming an airline pilot. I am typing this from Sydney, Australia. I owe it all to Mr. Del Fonte and Mr. Rausch, my elementary band directors who stayed after school to teach me how to play the flute and how to believe in myself. Mr. Joe Marino of Ridgecrest, Mr. Martinez and Mr. Song of PV High School, and Mr. Tom Marino of PV High School Jazz Band all contributed to who I am today. I urge the board to realize that elementary school music is the spark that can light the fire within those who may not be athletic like me." That was just one of the many just heart-wrenching stories that say, hey, this is what we need. Our program right now involves 30 minutes of music for TK through 2nd grade, 45 minutes for 3rd grade to 5th grade, and every 3rd grader gets a chance to participate in the chorus. That's an optional program. Every 4th and 5th grader has a chance to play an instrument of their choice. These are terrific programs that we have developed over 25 years and longer probably. And I really want you to be careful about jumping to a flashy rotation program, which is what you called option 1. I urge the board to remain with the current program, encourage the teachers to become credentialed if they're not already, and let's make it better. Let's add theater and visual arts and dance. We're doing some of those things in the music class already. Let's improve it. I'm okay with that. And as a matter of fact, that ESSER number 3 has a really strong component that could be used for music and the arts.
Okay.
And
Thank you, Ms.
I
Schrader.
follow the VAPA, and I know that all of us music teachers already do that.
Thank you. Okay, next, if we can have Ms. Kathleen Menninger. You can take your mask off if you're...
Hello, ladies and gentlemen of the board. Good evening. I'll try and keep this brief. I'm here to express my views on the importance of the elementary school music programs and why they should be done during the day. My name is Kathleen Constance Menninger, and I'm going into my senior year at Palos Verdes Peninsula High School. And when I was in 4th grade, I began playing trumpet. And honestly, before I started playing, I did not know what music was about. I did not know much about music whatsoever. And if we're being honest, if it was an optional class, I probably would not have taken it. But it was a class that everybody had to take, and that made me try the trumpet. And I found out that I had a major passion and a love for music, and that led to me now playing 25 instruments. I'm now co-drum major of Palos Verdes Peninsula High's marching band and set to be a section leader in their jazz band next year. And I'm teaching 20 students, the vast majority of whom are elementary school age, this summer as a means of both volunteer work and of making some extra money. And truly, I would not have had these opportunities or known that I had such a passion for music if it weren't for the elementary school music programs. And I'm concerned that if, as you propose, we were to change these programs to a before and after school, as I said, I probably wouldn't have chosen them if they were optional, and I'm afraid that other kids like me might be robbed of these opportunities if they were changed to an optional class. And furthermore, because of this drop in participation with people not choosing, this is quite likely to have drastic effects on the higher level music, because the elementary school music serves as a feeder. And with a lack of participation in there, it would essentially decimate the music at the middle school and high school levels, because, like I say, the elementary school program provides the foundation needed, and many times the middle school and high school curriculum seems overwhelming to kids when they don't have proper elementary school curriculum. So that's why the elementary school programs are so important, both in their needing to be mandatory and in needing the proper stable curriculum. Lastly, I want to note that music programs in general prove to be an excellent social vehicle for kids who aren't athletic like me. To reference somebody who I know in marching band who just made some remarks after graduating, he said that in high school he probably would have had roughly 2 friends if it weren't for the music program. And I imagine that he probably wasn't the only one. People find friends, people find communities of like-minded people through the music program. And it's truly worth investing in and making sure that we get the proper music education that we need. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Ranger. Next, if we can have, where did Megan go? Okay. For Colin Miller.
Hello, everybody. My name is Colin Miller. A little bit about myself. I am a rising senior at University of California, Berkeley. I'm majoring in econ, and I'm also getting my bachelor's of arts in music as well. So a little bit more about my musical background. I've been able to play throughout my musical career. I played at Rancho Vista, I played at Jazz and Marilest, and I played in both the jazz band and the orchestra at Peninsula High. And that has led me to some great places in my musical career. I was able to play for Capitol Hill, or play for Congress on Capitol Hill. I was able to tour internationally to locations such as South Africa. And post-COVID, I plan to tour with the University of Berkeley Symphonic Orchestra around Eastern Europe. And without a doubt, I can accredit this all to the music program that Palos Verdes has provided me. For example, like many kids, as I started my music career, I was forced into playing piano at a very young age. And it was more of a sit down, you're forced to practice, rather than a deep love and intrinsic desire to play music. Playing at Rancho Vista, I originally picked up the upright bass, so the XXL violin. And the teachers there and the staff and the community and the students taught me to not just love the music that I played and love the instrument that I played, but how to let others love and enjoy the passion for it that I felt when I played this music. So moving on to what music means to me, it's everything. It's what I've known since my childhood. It has taught me creativity. It's something I bring to the workplace when I'm working in economics, and as a consultant. It has taught me many of the life skills that I know today. And I know many of others have reiterated that, and I won't hit home on that point, but I think it's not just that, but it's also the strong scientific links to creativity and links to intelligence. Moving on to the proposal today, I thought, in my humble opinion, and with all due respect, it was a slightly misleading proposal. For example, those who have been through the music program like myself, I had trouble going through a few of the proposals. For example, proposal 1, when I first looked at it, I thought it sounded great as it's a rotation. It sounds like you're adding more arts, but in reality, it's taking away from the arts that we already have and framing it like there's something new to be had, when it's really almost cutting the music program by a third. And the survey done wasn't surveying kids who have gone through the program and what they think of it, but surveying elementary school parents who most likely have had no kids, or maybe one kid or barely any kids who have gone through the program themselves. So it just felt like a little bit one-sided to me. My last few points would be, there's going to be lots of implications of altering this music program. As Mrs. Menninger mentioned earlier, it's cutting off the pipeline at its head. The elementary schools are the pipeline and the funnel that feed the high school arts programs. In Peninsula Jazz Band, we play at middle schools almost bi-weekly in an effort to
I'm going to ask you to wrap it up, Mr. Miller.
Yeah, 2 more sentences. To promote continuing high school arts education. And cutting it short will be seriously cutting off the pipeline to the high school jazz bands. And when looking at this decision as a whole, it's really clear to me what's best for not just me, but the kids who are yet to come. And personally, I wouldn't be where I was today without the music program. And finally, I'd like to thank Mr. Steiner, who just recently retired, for giving me, not just me and a lot of the students here who are here today, our music education. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Miller. So I don't want to have to cut people off, but so please, with that last warning, go ahead and finish up. Next, if Miss Allison Menninger. Welcome.
Hi, my name's Allison Menninger. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak to everyone this evening. My daughter is a rising senior at Peninsula High School. You just heard from her recently. She's been involved in instrumental music in the district since the 3rd grade. And I would like to speak to the survey that went out. I'm concerned that the survey only went to elementary parents. Parents at the middle and high school levels were not given an opportunity to respond. However, we have the most experience within the district of the big picture of how music works within the district. All music programs have been monumentally impacted the past 2 school years due to the pandemic, and basing any decisions on the outcome of elementary classes last year, such as reducing music offerings in the future due to limited enrollment for optional music, is short-sighted. Parents of elementary students who don't have children involved in music at the higher levels won't know what these programs were like in pre-pandemic conditions, and won't fully comprehend the devastating impact of reducing instrumental music at the elementary level, which, again, effectively eliminates the pipeline of student musicians feeding the middle and then the high school programs. They all build on each other. And if we don't have an opportunity for a well-thought-out and well-executed instrumental music program at the elementary level, it will just likely be that within a couple of years, the middle school and then the high school programs will become decimated. In reviewing the options proposed in the survey, maintaining the current program is the only option that would allow students a meaningful opportunity to learn an instrument. Proposal 1 would only allow 4th and 5th grade students 1 trimester, once a week, of experience on an instrument, which is not enough time to learn how to play or even determine if they want to continue. Furthermore, I'm not sure parents would be able to rent an instrument by the month. And if they were to use this approach spelled out in Proposal 1, they would probably only be doing 1 trimester of music. And the parents would have a hard time landing a month-to-month rental on those instruments. When I rented for my daughter, we were always committed to annual rental agreements, and that was both locally and outside the area. Proposal 2 eliminates instrumental music completely from the regular school day. If the only option for instrumental music is an after-school program, many will never try and will never know what they are missing. Students won't know if they like playing or if they're good at it, if they're never given a hands-on opportunity to try. Music provides a safe place for non-athlete students to work together in a cooperative setting. It provides a sense of community, shared responsibility, discipline, and leadership. And these are all skills that will carry them through the rest of their lives. Numerous studies have been done that enumerate the benefits of elementary music instruction as part of the core
Ms. Messenger, I'm
curriculum.
going to ask you to...
I implore you to reconsider the future of instrumental music on the peninsula.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay. Ms. Yungki Zheng.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Okay.
You may begin when you're ready.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you, the board, and thank you, everyone. So I would also like to say something. First, I'm sad to hear that elementary music program got at risk. As a PVPUSD mom, I have 1 in elementary school and 1 in high school. So I think, I don't know this whole story, but I think thank you all for the effort. And there's no question, and music art will benefit our kids. So, but I'm just speaking for another point of view is I think my speculation is we don't have enough funding. Is that because for me, I look at the PF website. I know that we don't have a lot of money compared to other districts. And unfortunately, I would say that PVPUSD is an underprivileged school district. And education, including especially those music program, is not a right. It's a privilege. Otherwise, we don't need PF. So for that, I support a fee-based program. And I think we need to give fair pay to the teachers. And this is probably why a lot of PV kids are also doing private music programs. I have to say that because I'm the mom of the older kids, like Asian kids, who didn't take the piano lessons, but very few. So my recommendations, I think the advantages of a school-based program is very significant, even after school, before school, but yet has to be explored. Many of us parents are tired of driving our kids around to give private lessons. And but at the same time, I think the school district can be more flexible, open-minded, and making parents as a partner in this effort, and like you guys did in the reopening effort. And the second, thank you for getting more funding. Just think of in the long run, because of our financial situation, We just need to talk to our representative and California officials and get fair budget for the school if we really need to, want the best for our kids. And this, I think, is a long term. We need this for all the programs, and we cannot come back talking about it every year. And so it ultimately depends on the parents. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Singh. Mr. Fox, Mr. Stephen Fox.
Hello, my name is Stephen Allen Fox. I'm a professional musician, conductor, artistic director, and founder of the Golden State Pops Orchestra, and I'm also a former band director of 10 years at El Segundo High School. My family lives in Rancho Palos Verdes. We have a student in grade school, middle school, and in high school. And one of the things we find being most proud about in this district is that it never settles for being second best. It always wants to lead the way in what example of what districts should be like. And music has always been a priority, and that's something we're very proud of. So finding out that things may change at the elementary level, I just wanted to make sure that you know through my experience, my knowledge, as well as through other professionals who have children in this community, who live in this community, we want you to know we're available to consult with, to help you know what is a good pathway for leading to professionals in the future and for helping you have a great music program, which then sets you apart from the way most districts do things. Few things I just wanted to put out there right now for you. You are going to impact the future of our industry by the decisions you make related to this kind of a thing. Music's everywhere. I'm sure most of you probably listened to it in your car on the way here tonight. Restaurants, stores, movies, TVs, video games, it's everywhere. What would happen to music if districts made decisions based on lack of information at times, by not asking for information on how to make a great program, if less students were doing it, which is what would happen if it's not a part of the core curriculum during the day, for many reasons that people have already said. Secondly, many students will not know if they have an interest in music until they're exposed to it. And the only way for that to be possible is, again, during the day. Offering a before or after school program is superb for those who have a higher level of interest, but as the only choice is a major mistake, and I've experienced it in some districts. It is something that I think you should really consider, is that they need to all have exposure to it. Meaning that there are many studies, as most of you already know, and we actually have some papers in the back with some of those studies on there, but knowing what this district and what all of you are like, I know you already know the answer to most of these studies of how beneficial music is to the development of a student, to their grades, to their testing, to a multitude of things that make them better. What I want to emphasize is that should be a benefit that all students have the opportunity to take advantage of, not just those that decide to do it after or before school. And don't take that opportunity away to the students who may not think music is a choice. The last thing I wanted to say is I offer the collaboration between certificated, credentialed, professional musicians who live in this community, some of which who are here tonight, composer Christopher Leonard, Timothy Wynn. There are others in the community like Danielle Diego, president of music for Fox, composer Stephen Endelman, violinist for the Hollywood Orchestra that also has spoken up. These are, and others, which we have a list of in the back. These are people who have said, we want to see a great music program, and if we need to give some advice, call us. We'll help you be able to figure those things out. So I just feel it's really important that we, if VAPA is the reason, if changing the standards is the reason for this, let's not think, well, if we have to change the curriculum, that means that we have to rebuild the whole program. No, it means you have to change curriculum. You have to update curriculum, not say, tear it all down and rebuild it differently just because standards have changed. We don't do that for other classes, so don't do it for this. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Fox. Miss Heidi Fessler?
She is no longer on Zoom. She had to step away.
Oh, thank you. So then, Mr. Hugh Von Kleist. Is he still with us? Mr. Hugh Von Kleist. Johannes,
Stepped away
I see
for
you
a
there.
moment.
So, Johannes, why don't you go ahead, sir? Johannes Eberhardt.
Hello, my name is Johannes Eberhardt, and I'm going to be a junior at Palos Verdes High School this upcoming school year, and I'm here today to speak against the measure to make elementary school an optional paid after-school program rather than the more accessible program we have all known it to be. So a little bit about myself. I am like many other musicians, student musicians, I am a product of the elementary school music program. And that has fed into my present day dedication to music. Right now, I'm in several music classes at my high school. I'm a member of the Tri-M Music Honor Society chapter, and that my love for music has led me to do things outside of school. I'm a current member of a youth orchestra outside of school, and I also participated in a master class in Austria, which was very fun. Music has improved my life drastically, and I can go over a few different areas of that. I think I can talk about it academically very strongly. It has taught me time management, between practice and going to concerts and homework and things of that nature. It has also improved my leadership ability. I've had several opportunities, whether I was a section leader in the marching band or the leader of a section in the orchestra, and these opportunities have made me focus more on time management and thinking about proper decision making for the betterment of the group. And a lot of these aspects and characteristics are very important to me becoming an adult. And more broadly, music has kind of set myself a direction for my life and what I want to do with it. And all of that was born from the elementary school music programs in our school district. I also want to talk about how music affects people other than myself. And to do this, I think it's very important that we all acknowledge a very simple but important truth, and that is that music is important. It's important today, it was important thousands of years ago, and it will be important thousands of years in the future. It is something that is so deeply ingrained to our society and culture that, for me, the idea of putting an optional price tag on its accessibility is not the best idea. I think it is something that it allows us to express ourselves, our feelings, our thoughts, prayers, and emotions. And in my opinion, it is so important that this is given the same accessibility to our kids. Music gives kids something to look forward to, something to work towards, something to practice for. And it gives them a sense of personal responsibility to achieve a very common goal. And a little bit more simply, it keeps our kids occupied and gives them something to do. Every moment that a kid is practicing their instrument or going to a concert or to a rehearsal or anything of that nature, they don't have any time to think about engaging in some behavior that might hurt them in the future. And I can talk about that for myself. I mean, this Sunday, I'm going to be playing at a wedding, and so I have to look for sheet music and practice with the group regularly. I don't have any time to think about doing other things that might hurt my future. And I think as a community, it's very important that we keep focused on keeping our kids occupied and keeping them happy and keeping them very dedicated to what they do and what they love. And I think
Mr. Eberhardt, we're going to ask you to finish up, please.
Absolutely. And I think that music is a very great way for some of the less athletic kids to do this. Thank you very much for taking the time to hearing us all out. Thank you very much.
Thank you for being here, and good luck at your wedding gig this weekend.
Thank you.
Miss Georgia Cooper. Thank you for joining us. You may begin when you're ready.
My name is Georgia Cooper. I've taught
We're just going to pull the microphone a little bit closer.
I've taught 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, and 9th grade classroom, but music has always been very important to me. I inherited my father's eye problems. I see so differently out of each eye, so it has made it difficult for me to read. I've always been a slow reader. I've always had to work so hard in school. Music was my love. I started taking piano lessons at 6 years old and the cello in my school orchestra in 3rd grade. This helped me to focus, and music changed my life. I got to play in the Los Angeles All-City Orchestra. Our first concert was at the Shrine Auditorium, and when I was in the 6th grade, the next year, our concert was at the Hollywood Bowl. so I got to play the cello at the Hollywood Bowl. This was so important to me, and I played the cello in an orchestra all through high school and junior college. Then I attended Juilliard School of Music in New York City for piano. I got my teaching credential in music education from USC, and I've been teaching ever since. Because of my eye problems, I've had to work so hard in school, but music has given me so much. I'm so understanding and helpful of students with learning problems, and music has given all of us so much. It works and helps and gives so much to so many students. It also builds for the intermediate and high school program. We need our music program as it is. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Thank you, Ms. Cooper. Sorry, I'm getting old, Miss Westcott. I need this printed out a little bit bigger next time. Oh, look at that. Mr. Sam Malikazada, are you online, sir? There you are. You may begin, sir.
Before I start, I'd like to thank the board for allowing me to speak about a topic that is very important to me. Hello, my name is Sam Alexada. I'm going to be a senior at Palos Verdes High School, and I played saxophone in the school's marching band and jazz band for 3 years. I've also participated in outside honor groups such as the Bill Green Mentorship and the All Southern Jazz Band. I'd like to discuss the value of keeping free music classes in the elementary schools at normal school hours. I'd like to take on both an academic and social value of keeping these programs. Students involved in music programs tend to perform very well academically. For example, alumni of the Palos Verdes High School music program have been accepted into elite universities such as UCLA, UC Berkeley, Dartmouth, USC, Yale, Cornell, and the United States Air Force Academy. Personally, I can attest to how music education has improved my academics. For example, being involved in jazz band has improved my time management skills by teaching me how to work my practice around doing my homework. And it has increased my confidence and public speaking skills, changing how I give classroom presentations. Beyond academics, being a section leader in marching band has improved my leadership skills by making me lead a section and teach others. I've been able to use these skills when applying to organizations such as the National Honor Society or Palos Verdes Assembly. Moreover, music teaches teamwork to students. A band and orchestra need multiple musicians cooperating to make music, which is a school that reaches the classroom when students are working on class projects, for example. The value of music education stems beyond just learning how to play an instrument. Being involved in a music program has definitely impacted my social life at school. In high school, every student needs to find a niche. Some kids may be athletic, some others might be talented in robotics, but I and many others are involved in music. When I was coming into high school, I felt nervous because a lot of my friends were going to Penn while I was going to PV. However, a lot of my worries were put to rest when I had my first experiences with marching band. I made many friends with people in all grades, and I developed a social support system that I could rely on. I could ask upperclassmen for advice about my classes and navigating this new school. My life would be very different if I did not participate in marching band, and all of this started when learning how to play an instrument in 4th grade. It is my understanding that the district does not want to get rid of elementary school music, but rather to make it a fee-based program outside of normal school hours. However, this could have detrimental effects on the enrollment in middle schools and high schools. Making elementary school music a fee-based program would decrease enrollment, which would in turn decrease enrollment in the middle schools and eventually the high schools. Worst case scenario, it can mean the elimination of the music program in the district. If the district's goal is to improve the elementary school program, then making it a fee-based program is not the right solution. Thank you for listening to me.
Thank you, Mr. Malikazada. Okay, let's go with Miss Laura Hughes. Thank you, Laura, for your patience.
No problem. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for putting this on the agenda. As you all know, I'm Laura Hughes, President of the Peninsula Education Foundation Board of Trustees. As most of you and many of you know, elementary school is very important to us and to our donor base. And in fact, it was one of our founding principles when we were started over 40 years ago. When the budget changes happened at the state level, a group of parents got together because one of the main things they wanted to save was elementary school music. So today it continues to be a pillar of our fundraising efforts, and we strongly believe in it. And we strongly support keeping it and during the school day so that all students have access to it. We believe it can be enhanced and improved upon, and I'm really encouraged by the involvement and the feedback by all the people in the community and everybody I've heard tonight. It's very clear our community loves elementary school music and we want to keep it. It seems to me like the thing to figure out is how do we evolve it and enhance it and elevate it. Our main concern is that we take a student-centric approach to it so that all students have equitable access to music. So we're on board with helping to figure out what are the next steps, how does it look like. We are eager and expect, frankly, to have a seat at the table to figure out what does it actually look like going into next year and beyond. And we know it's going to take more investments, and we are up for that. And I know our community is too, just based on the feedback that we've all gotten. It's been really interesting listening to everyone, so we can talk more about that offline, but I think we've gotten some really good feedback here tonight. And I'm really inspired by it. Hearing the students talk reminds me of when we do our senior scholarships and they write essays to apply for that scholarship. And I can tell you time after time after time, they reference elementary school music as the launching pad for their music career throughout all the levels of their schooling and into college. Some go on to major in music in college, and I think it's really important that we keep it. And I think it's clear that we all are in agreement with that. So that's great. So the thing to solve for now is what are the next steps? What does it look like? And how do we include all students equitably in the program? So I think it's probably, maybe we form a committee and bring people on like Stephen Fox and Deborah Schrader and PTA leadership as well as PEF leadership and work with the district so that we are representing the community on behalf of the students, because that's why we're all here, is for the kids.
Thank you, Ms. Hughes. And, Ms. Hughes, I'm going to ask you, if you would please just stick around until we get through this discussion item.
Sure.
Just, as the president of the PEF, would like to be able to talk with you through this as well.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Now, if we can go to Ms. Joan Perkins, please. Welcome. You may start
Hello,
when ready.
my name is Joan Perkins. I've taught in this PV school district for 55 years. 5th grade and the last 20 have been in teaching music. I am here to speak on behalf of our existing elementary music program. Thousands of hours have gone into its design, so there is music education for all K-5 students. The decision you will make about elementary music education should not be taken lightly or made quickly. It will impact the lives of the thousands of students in our district today and for years to come. Please allow Deborah Schrader, a music educator with a master's degree in music education, to be part of this decision-making process for the future of this program. Let music education leaders within our community be part of this upcoming music education decision. After I read the district elementary music feedback form sent electronically to all parents, I was shocked and disappointed. For a program that impacts thousands of students, this is not the way to come to a decision. Parents who donate funds to the PEF expect it to be spent carefully and wisely. There simply wasn't enough information for parents to give knowledgeable feedback. First, our current music program is so much more than what was summed up in a short paragraph. Proposal 1 doesn't share how many weeks the students will have with each arts discipline. For example, a 9-week rotating arts program is lacking in continuity, especially when compared to our existing 30-week sequentially developed standards-based music program. Proposal 2, a before or after school music program may not even meet the legalities of our current California education codes. This voluntary option will destroy any quality music program. Where our current program needs fixing, fix it with the music teacher's input. I cannot state loudly enough that the music rooms at many of our elementary schools, which house thousands of dollars of instruments and music curriculum materials, are going to be lost, and the music instruments destroyed if parents have chosen the feedback proposal 1 or 2. I have seen this happen in other school districts. These rooms are where the music learning takes place, the space where the students sing, dance, and play instruments, where they compose songs. Our district, community, and local music organizations contributed the funds for the materials in the existing program. I've already heard that one music teacher was told to clear out her room. In summary, do not let the rooms and the materials be taken away from the music program. Build on the existing music program. Enable Deborah to coordinate this program. I'm asking you to please think carefully before you make your decision. Gathering input from knowledgeable sources. We are here and willing to help. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Perkins. And is Mr. Paul Strand here? Thank you, sir. You are our final.
I'll try to say something different. Paul Strand, I'm a resident of 30 years here. Thanks specifically to Richard Phillips for 7th period at middle school. Every night, orchestra and band and course teachers will bless your name for that 7th period. That would help them so much. Also, 400,000.
In fairness, Megan was actually probably the first person on the board to.
Okay, there we go.
She's a middle school teacher.
Megan. $400,000. Do you realize how cost-effective this program is? You've heard it tonight with the type of people. I cannot believe that this is such a cost-effective program, and here we're considering putting it off to the Netherlands or changing to another program. $400,000. I have just retired from 23 years with LA Unified. I was the arts administrator for a mini district of 180 schools. So I saw the arts program in 180 schools in our mini district. And many years ago, we did try the rotation method, and it's still going in some of the schools. So you get 9 weeks dance, 9 weeks music, 9 weeks theater, 9 weeks visual arts. That smattering approach, that scattershot approach, it does not work. Now, we've heard talk about visual art standards, the VAPA standards. Okay, if I ever hear someone say exposure to the arts again at any of these meetings, I will die. That's not what education is about. We don't just expose kids to the arts. The VAPA standards are very thorough, very comprehensive. They've been around a long time. But please do not go to a program where we expose them to something for 9 weeks at a time. We have the depth and the breadth of our elementary program. It can be improved upon. No other districts near. I went to 30 websites today in Torrance, Hermosa Beach, Redondo Beach. No one is thinking of going to an after-school program that I could see on their websites. Finally, let's see. Again, LA Unified has a budget of $20 billion. We read in the newspaper today. I think the arts education branch has a budget of about $24 million for their all of the arts teachers. $400,000. I encourage you, bump that up. But whatever you do, don't go for this scattershot approach, a little bit of dance, a little bit of art, et cetera, because that is not good educational policy, and that is not the best for our students. What you have already is great. Build on that foundation. I applaud what you've done in this district. It has fabulous reputation, and you can even go to greater heights than this. So thank you so much for all your work, and God bless you all.
Thank you, Mr. Stratton. Ms. Westcott, do we have any more yellow cards, or did I miss any?
No more yellow cards, and there are no further Zoom speakers.
And just make sure I did not miss anybody in the audience. All right. Thank you all very much for your input tonight. We will now open it up to board discussion.
So I guess I'll start.
Yeah. Go ahead, Mr. Phillips. You're popular here.
I think you'll probably not find a single one of us up here that's in favor of the before and after optional school program. I'll speak for myself, but I'll bet all my colleagues will say the same thing. So I don't think any of us are in favor of that. I benefited from a very good elementary school music program, which actually had a nationally ranked orchestra. I played violin. Was very jealous of the kids that had perfect pitch because I didn't. So I didn't really succeed very well as a violinist. But Stanley Gauger put together an incredible music program at my school. And then Arlene Furman was my violin teacher, and I used to go over to her house, which happened to be like across the street, and take the lessons I forget how many times a week, but certainly it taught me a lot of things, and I wasn't a very good practicer, I got to say. Probably my time management skills weren't as good as some of the students who spoke here, and I really appreciate what music has done for them. And I do think what a lot of the students expressed is what I think is really important about a lot of education, which is that the kids need to be exposed to lots of different things, as well as building core foundational skills so that they can figure out what they're interested in and what their passion is. And so some of the kids, Kathleen and Daniel, clearly, they found their passion in music, and that's important. And we need to provide that opportunity to everyone. Also, once again, as in many of these situations, I'm impressed by the depth of talent that exists within our community. And I think that, I hate to say it, the eduocracy, which is one of my terms, is often fails to take advantage of that depth of talent that exists in the community. And that, one of the ways we've tried to solve it is with various advisory committees, but that we don't, when we face an issue, really reach out to the community and figure out how to involve the community, especially those people that have specialized knowledge, like Paul does, in terms of how to solve it, and I think we do. And so I kind of am on board with the approach that Laura and proposed, and also Jean, of forming some kind of interdisciplinary committee that includes kind of, people that are both in the music program currently, in terms of staff, the principals, ed services, and people from the community who are knowledgeable both about being a professional musician and also about music education and figuring out what the right way forward is. And then the other thing I'd point out is that it's unfortunate that donations to PEF have dropped off so much. When I was on the PEF board, I think we peaked out at $3.4 million for the pledge. And elementary music has always been a core program since the founding of PEF, as Laura mentioned. And unfortunately, it's down to $2 million. And one of the things that we have in the district is this competition for funds, because one pocket of money from all the donors at the various, that exist in the community. And so we have lots of people going after those pockets. We have the booster clubs at each site. We have the PTAs, and we have PF. But the only way that you can fund a district-wide program like elementary music is through PF. So, I'd encourage that people that want to see district-wide programs, that they strongly consider, donating and re-upping to PF. And I recognize it's been a hard time economically for a lot of people in our community, but I do think we need to get PEF back to record-setting levels of donations.
Thank you, Mr. Phillips. Ms. Reed?
I had a few thoughts that are a little bit scattered, so bear with me because I've been taking notes as our speakers did, and now my whole paper looks like scribble scrabble. I think obviously we all value music. If I wasn't on the board, I would have been one of the speakers tonight talking about it, right? And you don't want to hear about my kids and everything, but I'll just tell you that it's really important to me, and it's also for me not a cost issue. I don't think that's something that is an issue for solving the problem. Is not an issue of cost, up to a certain reasonable point, right? I think we need to figure out, I guess I'll start with this. I had a couple of like data questions that I would hope we would be able to look at going forward. You know, of our 4th and 5th graders that start to play instruments, how many of them are paying for outside lessons? Johannes, the student, talked about accessibility, and to me the cost for that is a factor, as well as, are the students who are taking music already playing something, or is this brand new for them? My sense is it's brand new for a lot of students, but I don't know that for sure. And then what the enrollment differences would be depending on which type of changes that we would make. I don't know how we would kind of figure that out. And then I'm also curious, we've talked just a little bit, we've talked mostly about instrumental music, but I'm really curious about the general music component. Are there, we talked, a lot of the speakers mentioned drop off, and so I'm curious how many students who take general music in grades 4 and 5 then go on to take up an instrument in middle school or high school. I don't think that number is very high, but I would be interested to know that, and to me that would be a weakness in what we offer if our goal, and I want us to really think about our goal, is our goal to increase the number of kids who are playing instruments in middle school and high school? Or is our goal to expose and engage all students at all levels, including our special education students and students who can't afford to rent instruments? To me, those are really important factors. Mr. Coleman mentioned that our current teachers told him that they really like the current program, and I appreciate that feedback. I've talked to a lot of elementary teachers who really think it should be improved, and our principals feel that way as well. So as a board, we sort of have to sift through all of that information and figure it out. I definitely agree with Mr. Phillips about, I know on boards we love committees, but I think in this case it would really help to bring in community members like Mr. Fox, our students, Kathleen, Johannes, that are interested as well as our classroom teachers and people like Chantel O'Laughlin at PVIS, who's taught elementary music and middle school music, would be interesting. So I don't know our time frame or if we have time for that for next year. It's probably something we should have done beforehand and before it got to kind of this point. So I just want all of our speakers to know, my only frustration is that some of the information that was out in the community wasn't completely accurate, and it had assumed a lot on behalf of our principals and our board that's just simply not true, because we really do support this program. So I'm interested to see what our staff brings back to us as next steps, working with our principals to figure out what makes sense. Again, and my goal is just to engage as many kids as possible, you know, K through 5. And the supervision piece is the last one. If we have credentialed teachers at that, then what does that look like? Because you're talking about general music classes plus several different instrument groups at each school times every classroom size times 10 elementary schools. So we have to figure that, you know, we have to figure that piece out as well. But I'm willing to put in the work to do that, you know, as much as we need to do. So that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Reed. Ms. Gandhi?
Yeah, so I definitely agree with all of you guys. We all love music, and it's a very important part of our children's education. I spoke with a lot of parents this week that reached out to also let me know that when it comes to music, not having it as a part of the school day would be detrimental for the kids, and that really most of the parents that I spoke with said that if it was after school for elementary school, they would not participate in the program. So that was kind of the feedback that I received. I agree with you, Ms. Reed. You know, we need a little more information. A lot was said, you know, if this was a before or after school, which was one of the proposals, would that be fee-based? I heard that today, and I wasn't sure if that was accurate or not. Another thing is, you know, in terms of rotating through the different, you know, singing, theater, art, like all of it, is that something that we could do like with the younger kids, you know, where maybe in the younger years it's like a rotation, and then for the older kids kind of separate them out, and for those who want to do an instrument could continue with the instrument, and for those who are not interested in an instrument could possibly continue the rotation. So, I mean, I think overall I agree with what you're saying, that we need to get a group together to kind of figure out what would be the right solution moving forward.
Thank you, Ms. Gandhi. Ms. Crawford?
Well, I just want to thank everyone for coming tonight, and our principals too, to give all of your feedback in person and on Zoom. Also, all of the public comments and petition that was made. We've read through those comments and we hear you, so thank you so much for saying all of that tonight. Yeah, I would agree that music is important to all of us, and our intent was never to get rid of it. It is important to give students these opportunities at school. And then students can really see for themselves if they like it or not, and whether they can continue that at the middle or high school level. I do think, hearing things from principals, but also feedback in the comments, that it does need to be improved. As a teacher, I am concerned about the, credentialing piece and looking at safety for students and supervision and things like that. So I think that that's something that needs to be looked at, and that's part of Ed Code 2. So we want to make sure that we're not violating anything there. So I think that we do need to get a committee together with, all stakeholders to really figure out what needs to happen. If we go down the route of credentialed teachers, what that will look like, but also just not the teacher route, but what the program itself will look like to make different changes. And so I think that we can all agree that we have some great musicians and people who can teach instruments or different music to our kids, but sometimes it's different being skilled in an area versus teaching it to students. They don't always align in the best way all the time. So I think that is where the committee can come together to kind of figure that out. And again, like Linda brought up, I'm not sure if that is something that could happen this summer to then look at for the following school year, what needs to happen. But I think that our goal is to improve it. I think that it's always important to reflect on any programs that we have and think about how it can be improved, and not just kind of settle with the status quo and not change things. Change is hard, but sometimes it is important in order to have better things in the future. So I think that is important for us to think about and get that committee together, so then we can really look at all the different options, but also look at all of the concerns that we have heard too, to try to address those. Because if we don't change things, then we aren't going to address the concerns that we've heard from many people. So yeah, my feedback would be to go with the committee and really lay out the concern piece and the different options to go from there.
Thank you, Ms. Crawford. Dr. Chernis, did you have anything you would like to add, sir?
No, I've gotten pretty good at putting committees together this year. So I think we can definitely get the community involved, get our principals involved, our teachers, and put together a plan to make our program better.
Terrific. And I would like, as this committee gets together, that we look to build an inclusive program that includes, students with special needs, that addresses, the differences our students have, that it's equitable among all of our schools, that it's enjoyable, that we don't have students who are sitting outside on the bench because they were misbehaving or sent to the principal's office. For every student who learned to love music, we don't want to have a student who learned to hate it because they had a bad experience. We want to expand horizons. We want people to have that choice, I'm not 100% convinced that a student should choose in fourth grade which instrument they are going to play the rest of their life, right? But talk to the committee and see if there's a way maybe to expose them to different instruments, or, what can we do for drama? We have a very successful drama program here in the district. As part of the VAPA, we have the visual arts, I think, are well addressed with our Art at Your Fingertips and so forth. So we're really looking at the the performing arts, right, which would be drama and music. And I understand, Mr. Strand, don't go with the scattershot approach. But again, we're trying to expand horizons, and we're trying to get students to experience different things. If the same way that if a student's never exposed to music, they might not ever choose it. If they're never exposed to drama, they might not choose that either. So let's just be fair in this committee in trying to promote all of the performing arts. And then finally, it's definitely an issue to have our students properly supervised. We cannot take that possibility. One of the things that we read, right, where we weren't able to have a teacher in a room when there were 3 classes going on, and we simply cannot do that. That is simply not, it's not legal. So those are the things that I would recommend that this committee take a look at. Dr. Chernus, you are the committee king. This will be the 32nd committee, if my calculations are correct.
I'm on it.
Awesome. And I am so appreciative of everybody here tonight for sharing your thoughts and for being willing to step up and serve on this committee so that we can continue this excellent program that we have while addressing the concerns that are out there. Thank you all very much for being here tonight. And unless anybody has anything else, we will move on to the next agenda item. Thank you. Next, we'll move to approve the submission of the Palos Verdes Annual Measure for Local Indicators. Is there a motion that the board approve Palos Verdes Peninsula Unified School District's annual submission for the local indicators for the California Dashboard Report for 21-22 as presented?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? Seeing no discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, number 4, that the board approve the contract between Los Angeles County Office of Education, LACO, and the district to participate in school-based COVID-19 testing. I think we've established this is yours.
Yes. Okay. So this is, now I can tee it up. So we have an opportunity, we have funding, and Brenna's going to go through the funding through the county for testing for next year. So this is something we're going to take advantage of, obviously. And Brenna, you can explain what it looks like.
Sure. So the CDC ended up awarding Los Angeles County Office of Education about $300 million, and that federal funding is to support specifically COVID-19 screening efforts and testing programs. LEAs were able to apply for this. They put out an application. We completed that in May, and in less than 30 days, we were notified that award was made. For us, we will have to enter into a memo of understanding with or agreement with LACO if we choose to pursue this money. Prior to that, and there's still, everything's moving fast, so I do have a draft of that attached to this agenda item. That's why you see the draft. We had to go jump through some other hoops. We attended a little over a week ago a meeting to discuss a survey that we had to complete. We had to actually come up with a spending plan of how month by month we would be looking to spend it. We did receive quotes about 2 to 3 months ago, and we used some of that for the basis for how we were developing our spending plan. And let me just say, this plan is not necessarily concrete or in place. We are going to be having to take this back to the medical professionals committee for some dialogue and some direction as to how we can probably best lay it out. We were specifically told, because we were given 2 days to complete the survey and come up with the spending plan, so not a lot of time, right? So we did all that, and they said just to do our best and to put together whatever we could. And then we do have to get this agreement to our boards to approve by the end of the month. If we were unable to do so, we were directed to talk to them. But right now, just so the public knows, we are looking at an allocation of about $1.7 million to assist with this. There are a lot of allowable areas to spend it. I think we're looking primarily at testing and some of the equipment to have actually on-premise, potentially maybe extra hours, personnel, using staff. But again, all that can be defined with our medical professionals committee.
Yeah, and with that, there is the option to outsource it. So we can use this money if we want to go that route to have a company do the testing. We'd want to be very careful with that. We'd probably want to do an RFP and make sure it's it's competitively bid, or however we want to do that. So it's fair and open, and there's a process, because this is a lot of money. But it may be easier for us to outsource this to a company that could either come on campus, or we would go to their office or whatever, than have our own people do it.
Is there a motion that the board approve the contract between Los Angeles County Office of Education, LACO, and the district to participate in school-based COVID-19 testing?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
So I'm glad that the medical professionals will be consulted here, because I do think that, well, a couple of things. One, I'm glad we're getting this money. I'm sad that we didn't get this money earlier, right? I mean, I really do think that, it would have had more impact, for example, in dealing with the sports issues that we had over the last year, if we'd been able to have this in place earlier and developed our own program. I do think that, one of the things we ought to be asking the medical professionals is, given the current vaccinations state, and I don't know how we figure it out, but what the demographics of who are vaccinated and who aren't vaccinated, and how we target the program towards the unvaccinated, because I think obviously that's higher risk. That ought to be thought through, and whether or not things like pool testing make sense as opposed to just individual testing, which, in the current environment that we're in, where it's a low rate, and makes a lot of sense in reducing the testing expense to pool testing. I think that that's something we ought to investigate. So I look forward to seeing what the strategy is, and I'm glad that we finally have some money to do this. I do think that we need to think hard about whether or not we want to develop the expertise to run analytical machines, in our staff or not. And I don't know how complicated some of these machines are, or what's involved, but we ought to think that through.
Thank you, Ms. Reed.
Yeah, and the insurance piece is obviously a piece too, right? If you outsource, then that problem is solved. And I think, do we have the staff capacity to handle that without outsourcing things? And parents ask me all the time too, who's going to be tested? Who would be tested? Are we testing teachers? Are we testing only small children that can't be vaccinated? Are we testing athletes? Are we testing everybody? And the answer right now is we don't know. Right, so we just don't know yet. So I appreciate your effort in trying to develop a plan for the unknown, and I think people also understand the answer. I don't know yet. Let's wait and see how it goes. But we'll have to figure that out as the summer goes on. We'll need direction from our medical committee plus the county to figure out what we're supposed to be doing correct. But I just wanted to thank you for the effort, because I know it was a big deal to do this, but it's a lot of money that can really. I think provide our teachers, especially, a sense of security if students are being tested, and as well as parents, particularly of younger children that can't get vaccinated yet.
Yeah, and I would just say that the significance of this money is I can't understate. When we enter the cold season, every kid that gets sick, their family's going to want them tested, and that's just the normal reaction. I just experienced it.
We've
with
all
my
experienced
family.
that as parents, of
And
course.
so
right?
as we enter
Right.
the cold season, we need to have a robust testing system in place, because we're going to be testing a lot of people in the fall and winter.
And how is the flu this year, Dr. Chernis?
Great.
You're giving it 5 stars on Yelp, I hear. Okay. Ms. Gandhi, Mrs. Crawford? Okay. It's been moved and seconded that the board approve the contract between Los Angeles County Office of Education and the district to participate in school-based COVID-19 testing. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries 5-0. Okay, I will ask your forgiveness in bringing this one back. This is addressing declining enrollment through district marketing, communications, and public relations. I'll go ahead and take that if that's all right. I believe last year in one of our meetings, we discussed forming a communications committee. and it was decided that Trent and I would work on something. Unfortunately, COVID hit, and Trent departed. At the BAC meetings, they discussed the need to improve our district marketing. And I know it sounds kind of silly, like, hey, you need to market your district, as if we're competing for students, but guess what? We are. We're trying to get students. We are such a successful district, but we don't always convey just what we're doing. For example, look at this, our pivot team going to nationals, for a
World Championships.
World Championships, right? I mean, it's like, our students are amazing. But our parents are also overwhelmed with the amount of communications that they get. I mean, you get 13 emails, and they all say the same thing, a message from so-and-so, and it's like you don't even read them anymore. So I think one of the things that we really need to look at doing is how do we improve our communications, our marketing of the district and our services, and this includes our enterprise, and our public relations, even tonight, talking about the survey. I personally love the fact that we did a survey, not that we'd ever use a survey as a definitive point in our decision making, but at least lets us know, are we in the ballpark, right? Or are we, way off in left field? So my question for the board is, how could we, I see it in a couple different ways. We can actually form a full-fledged committee that would then include, members of the PEF and the PTA, so that we can get them working and talking the same language, and even having them coordinate fundraising events, and making sure that there's that clear distinction between, this money goes to your school, this goes to the district, and just getting them the ability to work out, working with partners in the community to improve our communications. We have a lot of marketing people out there with a lot of marketing experience who could probably help us, coordinate. When is the best time to reach out? When is the best time? What are the best ways to make sure that these emails are opened and read? We get a lot of, even despite the board emails I get, just the emails I get from my two kids, I'm like, I can't read it all. So I think we really need to take a look at how we're communicating. And so I guess my question would be, is this something that the board would be more comfortable to bring in a public relations firm to do? Would the board be more comfortable forming a committee that would then handle a lot of these aspects, or are we, just kind of carry on with how we have been going? Ms. Crawford.
So a couple thoughts. So first, I think we have to say that for declining enrollment, that is happening in other districts too, and part of that is just like the population changes that, there's nothing that we can do about that if people, who are moving in aren't having kids or having fewer kids. We also have to acknowledge that PV is a very expensive area to live, and so a lot of young families can't afford to live here. That's just a fact, and they're going to other places. But what are the things that we can do? Like, what can we control? And I think there are a few things that we can try to do, and we've talked about this with other programs and things, like what can entice families to live here who can afford to live here and do have kids. And part of that is our program offerings. So if we are improving our music program, how can we be different from other districts? We talked about foreign language options before, and that kind of was paused before COVID, especially when you have surrounding districts who have dual immersion programs, and we don't, and now we don't even have elementary foreign language options like we used to. That is something to look at too. And we can't compete with private schools with class sizes, right? That's something that we'll never be able to do. But I think that, again, looking at our program offerings and seeing what can entice people to live here who can afford it and what makes us different. So, again, I think a big thing is foreign language. Looking again at that, the 7-period middle school day and having students be able to choose between 2 different electives. That is something unique that I think can bring families here. But we are doing a lot of great things, and I think part of the issue is that we can do internally is like looking at our website and like updating our website. Like I was on there today, just peeking around, and when we're looking at ed services, like, oh, if I'm someone who's coming in, oh, what programs does PV offer? I'm having a hard time finding that. Like, okay, now I'm going to ed services, and then I see the options like gate, this, whatever, but it's not necessarily detailed on kind of what we're doing. So I would say that, you know, what can we do to maybe spice that up a bit internally before we go spend money on like a third party person? Because we do a lot of great things. So how can we advertise the great things that we're doing? And again, updating the website is part of it. And I think we should be updating that in the future with future initiatives that we're going to be doing anyway. So how can we update that, and how can we continue to improve our offerings to get people to move here?
Can understand, but Trent used to do a lot of our design, and he's no longer with us, right? And our staff, we're already asking our staff to work in filling in many shoes. I always point back to Brenna, you're 4 people doing 6 people's job or something like that. Our staff is already pretty well tasked, and what we would want to do, my recommendation would be to find experts. So it's not just us thinking about what the best way to do this is, but to actually have somebody who's experienced. And it doesn't have to be paid if this is a committee and we reached out to some volunteers in the district. Ms. Gandhi?
Yeah, I agree with the both of you. I think I think the website's a big one. If having like a catchier website that kind of highlights the different programs we have, and rather than having to click through it, and even then if you click through it, it's still just listed rather than, having pictures, so I definitely think marketing is a very important part of this. But to your point, the spending money piece. So maybe we start off with a committee, somebody, and I bet you there's people in our community that could do both. So start with that, and then if we don't get far enough with that, then we can explore the second option.
Mr. Phillips?
Well, I'll agree that our website is kind of a disaster for the average person. I think we're all kind of, PVPUSD.net cognoscenti because we have to go into it so much. But for the average person, just to find the agendas for the 2019 meetings versus the 2021 meetings is incredibly difficult because they're on 2 different systems, right? And much less. There's an incredible amount of information on our website, but like that front page graphic of number 1, I don't think that's been updated in 4 years, right? And so we just need to do a better job on that. I do think that with the loss of Trent, that we did lose out a lot on our social media kind of communications, and that we should do a better job there, and that we need to probably all focus on that a little more. I think it's more than just the issue of enrollment, though, that we need to address. Like, what I pointed out in the Measure M discussion was that they had that one-page sheet, that kind of a one-page fact sheet of this is how your money is spent. The LCAP one, if you remember when we had the whole discussion around LCAP, we couldn't change it, right? Because that was supposed to be the community template, but the community template was dictated by the state, right? So it was another one of these kind of mandates that this is how you're going to do it, but it doesn't work, right? Because it doesn't really inform the community. So I think that there's a lot of things like the budget, like the LCAP, that could use kind of that one-page kind of fact sheet. Maybe the one-page fact sheet on why to come to PVPUSD, why it's such a great district, and who else is eligible besides if you're a resident here. That would be a way to help address it. But I think that we do need a way to address that. I'm loath to hire a PR professional because that's not student focused. But I do think that there's a lot of communication and graphic arts kind of talent and public relations talent within the community, just like there is with the music. I think that there's a lot of talented people in the district that if we could try and tap into, and Jeff actually was one of the people that came up with that one pager, for Measure M, that we could do a much better job. So I definitely think we need to do something, because I think that our communications really are poor, and I think the elementary music situation is a great example of how that got out of hand and didn't need to, honestly, because we didn't clearly communicate.
Are we on to me? Yeah, this is an issue I've struggled with a lot, so I kind of sighed when I read the item. I thought, oh no, because because it's something we've struggled with for a really long time. I have a friend who is the communications director of a school district, and I laughed when he told me he got this new job. I worked with him a long time ago in a different field of PR, and I was like, is that a thing? I had no idea. But I also appreciate the fact that that is staff that isn't necessarily student focused. So I think there's a difference between communication and public relations, getting factual information out to people. The declining enrollment is a piece of it. All the data that we had as the attachment is interesting, but if people are leaving for homeschooling or local private schools, we do need to know that and need to know why, and if there's something we could have done differently. I'm not sure a PR person necessarily solves that. If someone needs to be in a special environment for their kid for a specific reason that's local, if they're moving out of state, there's certainly nothing a PR person can do for that. At the same time, I don't want to burden our current staff with any more assignments or committees, but the website really does. I've brought it up a few times. Our COVID information was all over the place because we're in a pandemic. We're trying to educate kids and keep them safe. Like, updating the website is probably not the first priority, nor should it necessarily be, but it does need to be at a certain point because parents go there for information. So we kind of have to balance the time involved for that. So basically all of my talking is to say I don't have an answer that I haven't thought of something that I think would solve this problem that doesn't cost some money. I'm not sure a PR person is the great approach, just because if you're a PR consultant in education, that just doesn't seem like something we want to spend money on. People kind of like that speak at CSBA and so forth. I don't know that that's really the direction that we'd want to go. So I guess I'd really want to see what specific problem we're trying to solve and then a strategy to solve it. The website, can we hire a college kid to come in and deal with the website for a small amount of money? That's something we could do. Otherwise, it's sort of one of those things that our district has always had, which is few employees doing this kind of work.
And to me, the communication, and this actually, like I said, I brought it before, but it came up again in the Budget Advisory Committee meeting when they were talking about the need for marketing in our district. On SCROC, the Southern California Regional Occupation Center, we actually hired, despite the fact that we are, bleeding money left and right, we hired a marketing firm to come through and analyze the click-through to look and to build a new brand for us. And we've seen that it's increased, and it's a little bit different model than we have here. But, addressing declining enrollment, if we could tie that into, one-time money because, we're addressing declining enrollment, that's one way that we could approach, financing this. But aside from that, I think that forming a committee that would address all of these, right? So it would basically be a communications advisory committee, just the same as we have a BAC, would be truly beneficial for our district and would allow for us to tap into the very specific different resources that are out there, from graphic designers to art directors to public relations. Sometimes it is really a public relations issue. How is information getting out there, and how does it sound? Sometimes we'll send things out thinking it sounds great, and then we hear that it was not read the same way. Dr. Turns, did you have anything?
Yeah. I have a lot of thoughts on this. I think that most school districts' websites look about the same, and so looking at our local districts, ours, it's okay. It's better than some, maybe not as good as others. Should it be updated more? Maybe, especially somebody should always be going through it and updating it. when Trent left, that was one of his skills was working on something. And so, my executive cabinet went from four folks to three. And we hired somebody, Eric, to just do the, take over the backbone. So we need to recognize that. Moving forward, I'm open to a small, I don't even want to call it a committee, maybe just like a small group of experts in communications and marketing that are willing to donate some free time and help out. But we want them to stay in their lane, so it's not like they're examining why, we're spending money on music or not enough on music. It's like I'm an expert in communications or graphic design or, and I can give you 10 hours a week to help with, this. Then as long as it's not, it's a specific utility, I do think that, there's an opportunity here. And we probably do have people in the community that are real talented that may have time that can actually help us with communications, marketing, and whatnot. You'll find districts with a lot of money, they have directors of communications. Beverly Hills has a director of communications. If I had to guess, other basic aid districts with a lot of money like Palo Alto and whatnot, they probably have that as well. We don't have that luxury here. So I think it would be helpful if we could find some people that are skilled to capture them and have a communications committee and or working group.
So we could have a task force, a communications task force
yeah.
to help get us back on track. And, I would love to see, English second language, groups involved in this so that, because we have a large percentage of our population where English is not their primary language.
Yeah. And so maybe it's not a committee where everyone's talking about the issue, but it's just people willing to work to help in the area of their expertise that we don't have right now.
I like that idea a lot. How do we actually go about setting that up? Is it we just kind of put an all call out, hey, we need your help, let us know if you're willing to.
It'll be one of my summer tasks to put together put this together and then to communicate it out. The beginning of August, we'll be communicating out signups for our 7 roundtables we have now. We have special ed parent, elementary parent, middle school parent, high school parent, middle school student, high school student, medical professional. So we have 7 roundtables that we want new people to come back to.
Right. So I definitely get your idea that you don't want to sit around and with another full roundtable.
No, I want skilled people that can come in and hit the ground
and
running.
Execute.
Yeah.
Okay. Is the board okay with that?
I guess the one thing that I'd add in there is if we do any surveys to help with trying these, figuring things out, that we include a survey professional on that committee.
Yes, if there are survey professionals out there watching right now, please write to phillipsr@pvpusd.net with I can help in the subject
We do
line.
have one that did help us on one of our
Yes, they
initial
did.
ones.
Yes, they did. Okay, thank you, sir. And let's move on now let's let Jesse Miller and the principal architect of DLR come in.
While Jesse's joining us, I will go ahead and give a little bit of background on this because I'm not sure who was here 2 years ago, but about 2 years ago, we actually awarded the architecture firm of DLR the task of doing the plans for our remodel for the Marine Science Center located here at Malaga Cove out of the multipurpose room that we have at the bottom of the property. With that, originally when that RFP was designed and put out to the public, and of those that responded, there was some aspects of it where we didn't necessarily know what the construction value of it was. With that said, almost all of those that made the final 3 had some type of a contingency in there with the design development phase on how they would approach it. So now at this time, we established what those costs would be last summer. So we did manage to establish that prior to all of the costs increasing now. This summer, we're seeing a lot of costs of different materials and such going up. So I am happy that that was established last summer. No offense, Jesse. But so based off of that, we're looking at going from a modernization fee scale of approximately $2.6 million now to what the construction management company came back with last summer, which is closer to $4 million. And at this time, DLR is asking for that adjustment in their fee. So Jesse, just because you can probably say it much better than I, if you could please just elaborate a little bit more on where we are with you coming to staff with this and the board for approval, please.
Yeah, thank you, members of the board. Interesting topic that preceded this one. As an architecture firm that does PR, it's always interesting to hear. But for this topic, yeah. So what Ms. Terrones said is very typical, that we actually commend the Palos Verdes Board of Education for the contract that we did sign. We've had a lot of school districts that have been starting to go this same route, where when the scope is unknown at the beginning of a project, essentially what happens is you just pick a number and we kind of base our fee off of that until the scope is more fully developed, and then the scope is fixed and locked in. The advantage of a contract like this is that on bid day, when the plans are all complete and everything's ready to go into construction, if there is a fluctuation from that design development phase to the actual construction start phase, you don't have to worry about the contract being adjusted at a later date, right? It becomes a fixed fee at the design development phase. So as Brenna correctly stated, our cost estimates for the Malaga Cove project through the DD phase and even through the CD phase, right now we're actually in the DSA comment phase. So we're a lot further along than where the DD phase was. But our estimate as of last December is still holding true. Now we do have quite a bit of cost escalation with the whole COVID-19 pandemic. But that is why we have kind of been monitoring that as we review and pick up DSA comments to try to plan this so that the project can come in right on that budget. Because we are starting to see those cost increase decelerate. Lumber was really high the last 4 or 5 months, and it's slowly coming back down to its normal price. So the motion, I guess I'm getting a little off topic, but the item in front of you today is basically to reconcile the AE fee with the current cost estimate that's outlined in the original contract. Did that kind of cover it, Ms. Terrones?
Yes, thank you. And then I also want to point out this will still come out of the developer fee, so Fund 25 would still be the funding source for this adjustment. I'm sure you have questions, so.
Is there a motion that the board approve amendment number 2, proposal from Malaga Cove to fee reconcile to the 100% DD estimate that a cost of $136,126, funds to be paid out of Fund 25 developer fees?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Discussion.
So I guess I'm not as troubled by the additional 136,000. What I am troubled by is the 50% increase in the underlying construction costs, because I think that that's the real issue, that somehow the cost went from 2.6 million to 3.973 million, and that gives me great pause as to what's really going on with this project. when we haven't really done much. And so I'm worried that this is a project that's out of control from almost inception at this point.
Jesse, could you explain
Oh,
where
yeah.
you came up with the original development of what you guys proposed at the RFP phase and interview phase? Because Mr. Phillips, I don't even recall, were you there with us? I know Mr. Phillips and I and Dr. Turnus were in those interviews. So if you could just, for the sake of everybody, we were.
I was present at
Absolutely.
all the firm interviews, yes. And I do remember, which I think I'm allowed to say, right, about our discussions, that one of the reasons was that we didn't think that we were as exposed to ups in the DLAR proposed contract as we were in some of the other competitors at the time.
Yeah, correct. I mean, this is basically the one up, right? This is the final reconciliation of the contract because, like I said, the really nice part about the contract that you guys have set up, and a lot of districts are going this way, is that you lock it in at kind of the design development stage, which is really when you pretty much have all of the scope of work ironed out. And it's a pretty complete project at that point, right? So that's a very great thing. I think the reason that you'll see the increase in construction cost is when we got into the building, as you guys may not be aware, I know some of your board members are newer from November, is we're essentially taking this existing building at Malaga Cove School and retrofitting it and upgrading it per seismic and DSA, Division of the State Architect standards, and getting it ready for a future potential marine biology program. When you start dealing with all of the necessary upgrades and understanding at the time of the original estimate, we didn't have the ability to fully comprehend all of the structural repairs necessary to fully upgrade it to be a code compliant building with the current 2019 building codes. And as we get into kind of understanding what the different program elements that the district wanted and how that looks, it just sort of kind of went up that way. We have a lot of ADA access issues at this site. So we've got a whole new ramping system and stair system that have to go in at the front of the campus. We actually have a new electrical service that has to happen at this site, which is kind of interesting because this site actually already has 6 electrical services servicing it. And so we have to deal with Southern California Edison. So there was a lot of unknowns, obviously, when we go out for a request for proposals, right, at the beginning. And then once we start to further define what this actually wants to be, getting the as-built drawings and digging into the actual structure, this is where we're kind of currently at.
Thank you. Ms. Reed?
I'm kind of with Rick a little bit. This makes me a little bit nervous. This is now just like a lot of education projects, this project has gone up in cost quite a bit, and I appreciate the fact that it's developer fee funds and it can be used for this, and I also appreciate the fact that it's a very, very student-focused project. Our students will benefit from this. I just get nervous. It's like when you take your car in and they tell you it's such and such and you need to pay more. He could have come back with 136 or 179 or 436, and I have no way to know that, right? So when there's a lot of unknowns, is the building code changed since this bid was awarded to you? If it has, I understand that and appreciate that. But I'm wondering how many of these unknowns could have been known before. I don't know. And we've had many projects like this, small and large, that have these sort of issues. But I think we need to really think about this one. I don't know. I don't feel like I have enough information to make a yes vote on this right now. I feel like I need to look at this more, and I need to really understand not just the DLR fee but the cost of the project as a whole. And is it going to go up more beyond this? Is this it? Or is it going to go up even more and more? And then how much developer fee money do we have, and what % of it do we want to allocate to this? That I think if we're going to make a conscious decision as a board that this is the most important project, and it could very well be, and we need to allocate all of our developer fee money or 80% of it or something like that. But I just want us to understand really what, if we vote yes on this tonight, what happens going forward with this, the cost of this project overall, because we've seen it on small things like playgrounds to the Penn Field to everything where the cost is higher than we originally anticipate.
If I could, I think it's important to note, and unfortunately I didn't attach it, but I mean, going back to cost estimating and what the RFP asked them to do, there was the requirement for methodology and contingencies due to the fact that we didn't have again, I was there, so we didn't have some of this stuff defined to truly be able to say it was going to be $2.6 million to build versus, say, $3.9 million to build. So with that, like I said, each person that was responding based on the information, and this RFP had a lot of brevity to it. I mean, it wasn't a very comprehensive one at that. But with the information that was there, they were asked specifically to do this to try to control the costs, to try to get to this point. I don't think necessarily, again, as we were evaluating all of them, and some folks did respond to certain aspects, and some did have certain deficiencies with regards to the professional folks that they were bringing in to respond to it in its entirety. We definitely saw another one that was probably going to escalate significantly, whereas this one, I think we met all those requirements, and it was somewhere in the middle. But we were still going to always have this contingency using their methodologies that we gave, knowing this.
Right.
So, I'm sorry.
If I may, what we're paying here completes the designs. If we want to move forward with the project, we're looking at a $4 million project rather than a 2.6 to answer Ms. Reed's question. So the board doesn't need to answer that tonight.
Right, it's do we want to invest $136,000
to complete the project? And Jesse, do you know when the plans will get out of DSA?
So they're actually, kind of to back up a little bit. So in essence, DLR Group's kind of put us on our backs, right? Because we should have had this locked in at the design development phase, which was about 8-9 months ago. So we've been kind of working without this for the last 9 months. And so the plans are actually out of DSA. They're in our hands, and we're picking up the comments. So we're ready to obtain approval here within a given month or two, which at that time, if we do go out to public bid, that's when we'll know the actual true cost of the project, right? For right now, it's all just our cost estimating services, our knowledge of the industry, our experience putting this pen to paper type of situation. But it's not until we actually publicly bid it that do we actually get a true cost of the project, right? So that's why, again, the contract locking it in at the design development phase is actually a very smart contract because then you're not tied to the ebbs and flows of the construction industry in that process. We're just kind of bringing this to you guys tonight a little bit late in the process. We probably should have brought it, 9-10 months ago. Yeah, we're very close to obtaining DSA approval, which is actually, we could go into construction on this project within the next few months.
Okay, so if we were to approve this tonight, essentially we are now ready to go whenever we decide to initiate construction, but that becomes on us when we decide that we want to go out.
Correct. Yeah, we're still proceeding forward to get this project DSA approved. Once the project's DSA approved, you guys have essentially 5 years to do construction, to start construction on the project, because we can ask for 1-year extensions up to 4 times with the division of the state architect. And so once that approval happens, it's really up to you guys when you guys want to move forward with the project, bid it publicly, and construct it. But the drawings would be complete, everything would be approved by the state and ready to go. It would just be at that time determination by the district if how you want to proceed and when. But as always with construction, is what I always say is the cheapest time to build something was 2 years ago, right? Every day that we kind of wait, it takes escalation happens.
Right. Anything? Okay. What this really boils down to is, do we have the appetite to spend another $136,000 with the thought that we will continue, or are we so adverse right now to the thought of continuing that we don't want to do that? And I think that's what it really boils down to.
What's the impact of delaying this until we get a better understanding of what's going on the project?
What is the timeline on this? I mean, you're going to get this out of DSA next month, right?
For billables, we're going to be nearing the end of the PO and the amount that has been authorized by the board.
Is there any further discussion? Otherwise, we'll take a vote. All in favor that the board approve amendment number 2, proposal for Malaga Cove fee to reconcile to the 100% DD estimate at a cost of $136,126. Funds be paid out of Fund 25 developer fees. Please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. I had Ms. Crawford and Mr. Brock at aye. Those opposed?
Yay.
Rick Phillips and Linda Reed are no. Ms. Gandhi?
Sorry, I'm still just a little confused about it.
I'm sorry?
I said I'm still just a little confused about it.
Okay.
Is that just for the plans?
Yes.
That is to finish the plans that we've already.
Yes.
But
This is
not
to
for the
complete the
whole-
plans. This is not to
Okay,
do
so-
any project.
So, aye.
Aye. Okay. Thank you. So then that passes 3-2. I understand your concerns, board members Phillips and Reed.
And I also understand the best time to build is 2 years ago. I get that piece of it, too.
But at least we have a project here that is ready to go. We can pull the trigger when the district decides that it's best to do so.
Like I said, the issue really isn't DLR's fee. The issue is what's really going on this project. And if we have great cost, 50% cost escalation
Right.
at the outset, what's that really mean where the costs are going to end up? And that's what we don't have a handle on, honestly, I don't think. Because, I mean, this memo was dated, January, right, or something like that.
Yeah, January was also the peak of the.
And so who knows where we are today? And I honestly think it was irresponsible to approve it. That's why I voted no.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Mr. Miller.
Thank you.
Number 7. Can we let Ms. Swallen, please? Good evening, Ms. Swallen. Thank you for joining us so late. Sorry, it's already past 9:30.
That's all right. Thank you for having me. And I'd like to thank you, President Brock, as well as the board members and Dr. Chernus. I just wanted to share a little bit tonight about just this outstanding graduation that we just got to have in person again in the garden recently on June 10th. It is actually our 19th graduation in the TTI program, and over the last 14 years, and we celebrated that day Megan Quinn and Cole Hunston that morning for all of their accomplishments in TTI that they have done over their time in our program. The staff, the students, staff, and families of our graduates and the board members, Mr. Brock and Mr. Phillips, you were both there to join us, helped to make it an extra special event in the TTI Seed to Plate Belmonte Garden. Nancy and her team of volunteers made everything so beautiful for us for our first in-person graduation after having to hold 2 on Zoom. Each year in December or June, we have students aging out of the program because they have reached or are reaching the age of 22. The students then go on to regional center programs that consist of day programs, day with a combination of work program, or they go on to become clients of Department of Rehab. And with the Department of Rehab, they then provide coaching and helping to get students into a job and help them find success. And the hours can vary based again on the student's interest and what the job allows. Megan will be moving on to Provo, Utah this summer to attend Scenic View Academy. This is a 3-year program that she's going to participate in to continue to hone her skills. She's also working on a transfer from Trader Joe's in Golden Cove to Trader Joe's there in Provo. Cole is exploring different day work programs that are available through Regional Center, and he's looking forward to that in the fall. I have to tell you that our celebrations are wonderful. The students write heartfelt speeches to those that are graduating and read them to the graduates. The graduates write letters as well to everyone. We have learned dances to share at graduation. We have had students share and show an art show. We have also had a student that wrote a script and starred in a very short film that we were able to share. But the talents just go on, and it is such a wonderful experience to be there with the students and to celebrate them. I also want to say a few words about the Transition to Work program. I'm thrilled that Dr. Chernus and the board put together and approved the Transition to Work program. I am hopeful and looking forward to continuing with the Transition to Work program now that we're able to open more. I also want to thank the board, Dr. Chernus, and administration for all of their ongoing support of the TTI program, the students, and their families. Last, I'd also like to thank the students and their parents for the outstanding and to our outstanding staff that support our students day in and day out. We have an incredible team in TTI, and we are a family, and that is felt. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Swell. Yeah, tonight we were talking about the tree, bench, and TTI donations, and I thought it was only appropriate to invite Ms. Swell to talk about the TTI program, which meant so much to Mr. Frankel. And as we're moving forward, that there is a motion that the board approve staff to purchase a magnolia tree from a nursery for a price not to exceed $500, and staff is directed to support the family with the purchase of a bench that will be placed next to the tree. The board will set a date for the tree planting and placement of the bench.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, discussion? The magnolia tree, I think, is a beautiful, beautiful touch. This also, the donations, TTI donations, I think we cleared that up, that was going to be handled by TTI to decide how they were going to spend that money.
So we have an account that's specifically set up for them. All the funds have been put there, and then we will be working with Tara, yes.
Okay, terrific. I'm very excited about this, and I hope that the family recognizes how much we miss Jeff and how much we appreciate him being there. And when we plant this tree, I hope that we pick a location that perhaps we can get our TTI students to attend the dedication. And so I appreciate the work of the staff to do this. Is there any other further discussion?
So I'll just say thanks for inviting me to the graduation event. I always enjoy hearing from the TTI students. You do remarkable work with them, and their speeches are so heartfelt. And also down at the beach for Jeff's very first memorial, I was very touched by the speeches from all the TTI students. So thanks, Karen, and I think this is the least we can do in Jeff's memory.
And the graduation was so much fun.
You're welcome.
I was
Thank
just,
you
I
for
was so
both
impressed.
of you for attending.
I was so impressed by these students and how genuinely proud they were and happy they were, and just how successful they were. And that's one of the things we always talk about up here is, student success, and that means something different for everybody. But to have somebody who is successful, they are doing something with their life that they enjoy doing and they're good at, is a program that TTI offers, and I am grateful that we have it. So with that, let's please take a vote that the board approve the staff purchase and set it. The board will set a date. We don't have to do that tonight.
Yes.
All in favor?
Yes, sorry.
Aye.
Yes.
Aye. And that motion carries. Thank you, Ms. Swell.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. Kathy, for some reason, I have a feeling this next one is yours. Okay.
The next 7.
The next 7, ladies and gentlemen, for Kathy.
So actually, just to kind of preface the next 7 items, they are all routine items that we bring before the board for approval at this time every year, but I will go through them obviously one at a time. The first one is approval of interfund transfers that are already in the current operating budget. We have a transfer to deferred maintenance and a budgeted transfer to food services. Even though they're in the budget, LICO requires separate board approval for me to actually make the transfers during the year-end closing process. So that's what I'm here for tonight.
Kathy, if it's all right with you, I would like to just go ahead and make these motions and then see if there's any questions board members have. If not, we'll just go ahead and approve them. So is there a motion that the board approve the following interfund transfers for an estimated transfer of $219,829 from unrestricted general fund 01 to cafeteria fund 130 in order to maintain the required ending fund balance? A transfer of $300,000 from restricted general fund 01.3 to deferred maintenance fund 14.0.
So moved.
Is there a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Is there a motion that the board accept the mandate block grant option for the 21-22 fiscal year with the option to withdraw if future information indicates that a different selection provides greater benefit to the district?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Is there a motion that the board authorize the county superintendent of schools make appropriation transfers if necessary at the close of the 2021 school year to permit payment of obligations of the district incurred during such school year, and that the source of such transfers be made in the following order: between major objects of expenditure, from designated fund balances, or from unappropriated fund balances?
So moved.
Is there a second? Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Is there a motion that the board approve resolution number 29, 2020-21, authorizing superintendent or designee to request temporary transfer of funds from the school pools fund maintained by the Los Angeles County Treasurer, if necessary, in order to permit payment of obligations incurred by the district during fiscal year 21-22?
So moved.
Is there a second? I'm sorry, I didn't hear a second.
Second.
Okay, thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, that motion carries. Okay, next. These look so similar. I'm sorry. So we just did number 29, correct?
We're on number 12.
So now we are now on resolution number 30, 2020-21, that the board approve resolution number 30, 2020-21, authorizing the superintendent or designee working with the Los Angeles County Treasurer to make temporary transfers of funds in order to permit the payment of obligations in the school district incurred during that year and to maintain a positive cash balance in all district funds.
So moved.
For a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Resolution number 31, that the board approve resolution number 31, 2021, allocating $2.134414 million in education protection account funds for teacher salaries for the 21-22 fiscal year.
So moved.
Is there a second? All in favor? Or any discussion? I'm sorry, any discussion?
Aye.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Okay. Resolution number 32, that the board approve resolution number 32, 2021 to establish fund balance policies as required by GASB 54.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
I'll offer a friendly amendment.
You have a discussion on this one, sir?
Yeah, I have an amendment to paragraph 6, where the title should be changed from Associate Superintendent Business Services to Assistant Superintendent Administrative Services.
Okay, is there a motion that the board approve resolution number 32, 2021 to establish fund policies as required by GASB 54, amending paragraph 6?
It's either accept it or not.
That's
The
what-
amendment. Megan moved it, right? You have to ask her whether or not she's accepting it. Oh. Yes.
Okay.
Aye.
Thank you. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, Ms. Crawford, the fun one, acceptance of gifts.
Acceptance of gifts. So these gifts are, again, to the TTI program in memory of Jeff Frankel. So I'm so glad that we have that, again, set up, and we're going to talk to Ms. Wall about how to use that in the program. So thank you so much again to the community and everyone who has continued to donate to the TTI program during this time. So I move that the gifts of materials, supplies, and $755.90 in cash received May 15, 2021 through June 11, 2021 be accepted as presented.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you, Ms. Crawford. Consent calendar. Was anything anybody wants to pull from consent calendar?
Yes, President Brock, staff would like to pull M3D, the Lunada Bay Playground change order. We found a better, cheaper solution.
Okay, so the staff is pulling M3 Delta.
So then will it still be able to be worked on over the summer then, or how would that work?
We'll have to bring it to a special meeting at
Okay,
some point.
that's fine,
But
no problem.
It'll be worth it.
No problem, no problem.
Thank you.
Okay, board members, do you have anything you'd like to pull and discuss?
So I'm looking for the item number, but yes. I think it's 2K, I know, wrong one. Jumpstart one, but sorry. Yeah, but it's because I want to mention something about Jumpstart with regards to this. But yeah, Study Hood and Jumpstart.
Okay, so I didn't hear you clearly. You would like to pull
M2L.
MI? Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay, is there anything else?
I think I'll stick with one.
Okay. You haven't exceeded your allotment this year. You have like about 20 you can pull if you wanted. Okay, anybody?
I got my my issue on the out-of-state field trip cleared up during
Okay.
special meeting.
Okay, anybody have anything else they'd like to pull? All right, so is there a motion for the consent calendar to approve 1? Okay. 1 through 1K, 1M, or is that 2K?
2K.
Okay, this is a lot on the consent, just saying, people. And then we kind of don't have
Do you
it.
want me to do it, Matt? Because I have it all here, right here.
Okay.
Okay.
Ms. Reed's going to save me.
I am going to save you. I'm going to move approval of M1 through M3K and 2K, and then 2M and N and all of 3 and 4
Second.
through 4B.
That was moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
All right. So the only one we have to discuss, Mr. Phillips, is yours?
So Study Hut and Jumpstart. And so I guess now that we're contracting for, some Jumpstart services, because we don't have enough teachers to teach it. I guess the question is, do we still need to limit Jumpstart to just those that are targeted, or can we do it now as we originally envisioned it, which is any family who wanted to avail themselves of Jumpstart could avail themselves of Jumpstart, because we now have, and maybe we limit the targeted people would go to the people that we have in-person instruction for, that we haven't contracted for, but that we have dedicated staff for, but where we're short of staff, that we expand the services through this contract or another one.
Okay, yeah, sure. So we actually have a wait list going, and so currently there's 144 responses on the wait list so far. They are scattered everywhere from kindergarten all the way through 12th grade. But it looks like what we want to do is accommodate space for the teachers that we have in person first, and then if we need to come back, then I would ask the board possibly to ratify something if we don't have a July meeting, to ratify something in August so that we can accommodate everybody. We are not seeing the same RSVPs that we saw on the initial interest. And so, for example, at the middle school level, we sent out 250 invitations and we only got back 144 confirmations. And so I think as parents are, planning their vacations or whatever it might be, many of them have lost interest in sending their kiddo back to school after the school year. So it looks like at this point with the 144, we will be able to accommodate everybody. And so we're going to look at the different content areas for secondary, but at the elementary level, we're going to just have to look at specific grade levels. But yes, it is very possible.
Yeah, I think we can expand it. It just wouldn't be in person, right? So this is our in person is with our staff willing to do it. This would be a remote through these folks.
And the reason for the remote is because of the certificated situation where they can't be left alone with students. And so in doing it remote, what we've been working with our contracts on is really basically to record every single session. And so that should there be something that is alleged, then we're able to have a recording of every single session that's happening, and it's at a specific time. So there's no way that we're able to have something that, would happen at a different time. And all of those are recorded. So that being said, I think what I'd like to do is start working through that wait list first, and then we can come back to the board if we need to expand the contract.
So in keeping with our other discussions tonight, I'd ask that whatever we're considering doing and how we do it, that we communicate it clearly to the affected families so that they can understand what is likely to happen for planning purposes, because you said people are already shifting their summer plans around, and so I want to make sure we get the word out there that we are going to offer it to more students then.
Well, and also that we're using Study Hut because we didn't have enough teachers that wanted to teach in certain subject areas, so that's why families understand that this wasn't our first choice. This is a way to help kids when we don't have enough teachers.
Yeah, I think that's important, right? That the program is not as robust as we had wanted because there aren't enough teacher volunteers. I do understand that a lot of people are exhausted from the last year, and so that's part of it. But I think we all feel that the kids would be better off if they had an in-person PVPUSD teacher. So I'll move approval of M2L.
Thank you.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Future agenda items. We are continuing to work through that list.
Oh, I have one.
Yes?
And I don't know if this is the right way of doing it, so I apologize. Earlier when we were talking about the declining enrollment, I would like to add what does that mean for our schools, and how if enrollment continues to decline, what is that going to mean, and how are we going to move forward in making decisions? So.
Okay. Thank you. So we will add that to our future agenda items. So this is an important question. Thank you. All right. Anything else? Okay. Can we do our board member comments in 5 minutes? And we'll be done by 10. Good luck. Okay, Ms. Gandhi, we'll start with you.
No comments.
Oh my goodness, off to a good start. Ms. Crawford.
I have just a few comments. Sorry. But they're good. So, sustainability, I wanted to talk about that a little bit. And our committee that has started, or was started in January and continues to meet every month. We have another meeting tomorrow. So I wanted to give everyone a heads up that there will be a presentation from the committee at the beginning of August at one of our first meetings. We will be requesting that the board adopt a sustainability goal for the district, and that will be goal number 10, so you can look forward to that. In the fall, we're going to be focusing on operations, instruction, and culture. Those will be kind of like three main components to this whole shift that will happen in our schools. And we're going to start with recycling, so something simple, we hope, and have all of our sites and classrooms recycle and get the students involved with that. We'll be talking about that more tomorrow. And again, you'll hear from the committee more specifically on how that'll work in August. And over time, we hope to add more goals and things that we can do to improve our instruction and culture in our district. And we hope to find some grants and also use one-time funds to move forward with our goals, because some of these things do take money, but other things don't. So we'll be looking at that. We've also gathered data finally at all of our sites to see what we're actually doing at each level, from the preschools to the high schools. And some of our sites are doing a lot of great things, and some sites are at the beginning stages, but it's nice to see where everyone is, and everyone is doing something, so that is a positive. So we want to kind of organize it more, though, and have more structure at a K through 12 level, and kind of say, like, here's what all the elementary schools are doing, here's what the middle schools are doing, here's what the high school students are doing to, again, have more alignment and streamlining, so we can really, again, have this great initiative and progress throughout our district. And then also, we would like to update our website with all the great things that we're doing in our grade levels and at our sites in regards to sustainability. And when we kind of kickstart this sustainability initiative in the fall, kind of make that clear. We're going to have a logo that will come from the committee so that you can see that all of the paperwork and all of the initiatives that are kind of put into place will have a sustainability logo, so then people kind of know that this is a push from us. So you can expect that in August, their presentation.
I was just trying to confirm that this is a board committee, is right? Or is it a superintendent's committee?
It's a superintendent's committee.
I love this. This is really exciting.
I tried to cheat off Miss Reed over here. She gave me the wrong answer.
Me. You leaned the wrong direction.
The point being is, like, if I don't see why we can't have this added to our reports up front. I think this is important enough that we can add to our reports up front.
Dr. Turnus's report, I guess you could.
Either way, but let's move it up so that it gets the attention that it deserves. Thank you, Ms. Crawford. Ms. Reed?
Just one brief thought, and that is just that the last 16 months has changed a lot of the goals for all of us, for our teachers, for our staff, for our board, on both a macro and micro level, which is how am I going to get through today, and then how are we going to get through this year, right? And so I really look forward to a nice break for all of our staff and getting back to doing what we normally do, which is trying to figure out what's best for kids and how to find the money to do it. And the music example is as difficult of an issue that was to talk about today. That's what we really should be doing more of, hopefully in the future. So I wish everyone a happy and joyous summer, and we'll see you all in August. And everyone needs to go on vacation, or not go on vacation, but take some time for yourself with family and friends. So
Absolutely.
Enjoy.
Mr. Phillips?
I'll echo Linda's sentiments there. I think everybody needs a break, but I do think that that the passion that was displayed today about the music program is important, and that I wish our community was more passionate more often on a lot of educational issues, not only with us, but also with our state representatives, which really control a lot of our funding. I also, and our community does a lot in terms of volunteerism and donations, and I hope that there's more volunteerism and donations. And I do think that this last year has been especially good for engagement with the number of committees that Alex has started and all the community members who have stepped up for that, and also that we're hearing a lot more student voice as well. And I was, it was great that I think we had like 5 students who spoke out today about the music program and the effect that it had on their lives, and so articulately as well. So I think we've done a good job in terms of educating them, and so that they can speak their minds and tell us what's important. And so I was very pleased to hear them. Thanks.
Thank you, sir. I wish everybody a very happy summer. And there's a sociologist who said that, following the Spanish flu in 1918, the Roaring '20s followed, right? And I really hope that we're looking at the new Roaring '20s coming up. Everybody has survived, and everybody needs a little bit of fun now. So have a great summer. Thank you. We are adjourned at 10:02 p.m.
I was so close, so close.